We need to make sure that everybody continues to let us know where those folks are. If you've observed recurring violations of the Safer at Home order, please continue to let us know at coronavirus.lacity.org/business violation. You know the old expression about snitches? Well, in this case, snitches get rewards. We want to thank you for turning folks in and making sure we are all safe.
Dude, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. I'm not doing anything else today.
It's funny, man. I've gotten like an unusually good like reception into me just kind of asking people to do this. And like, I've got some people that frankly, like I have no business like interviewing, like some photographers where I'm like, there's no way this guy is going to say yes to this. And then I'll, it's just like, I'll just send the spiel like, hey man, big fan, blah, blah, blah. Been admiring your work for a long time. Like I'm pretty bored and I'm a photographer, but I have nothing to do. And, maybe you're in the same situation and like, and off to the internet. And I'm like, there's no way this dude's ever going to respond. And then like that, next day or something, he'll be like, oh yeah, sure. Why not? And I'm like, what? Like,
right.
Like, for real?
That's funny.
Yeah, man. So, the only people that I've really asked to do it so far are just people that I like admire their work, or, I just find them interesting in some way. Like I've interviewed, like a therapist, recently, and we talked a little bit about just like, what is it like psychologically to be quarantined, and like, what does that mean, and how weird is that for, to go through with other people or whatever.
Right.
So, I wanted to have you on because you're like one of my favorite photographers in the Philly area anyway.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude. It's like, so you can always kind of tell like certain people are good at certain things, or they seem to do things like a very, particular way. Like maybe you really like the way they edit, or you really like the way they, their composition or something. And like one of the things that I really appreciate about what you do, man, is that you can tell that you really like bust your ass. Like I know it hasn't been like recently because it's been so, the quarantine and everything.
Right.
But, like I remember there were like periods of time where it's like, I swear to God, every single day, like during the summer, you're like sunrise, sunset, Milky Way, work the next day. And I'm just like, damn, dude, like it's like shit that I know I should do.
Right.
And I know. And like, there's just time and time again where I'm like, oh man, I have to get out and do this tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and I'm like,
I know.
Maybe I don't make it. But you, my friend, like you bust your ass, dude. I've taken notice of that for a long time.
Hey, if it's, what I mean, like the whole thing is, when March came around, the biggest thing for me was that, okay, the weather's starting to get better.
Right.
The opportunities are there. And I'm really glad that I took that opportunity because look what the hell we're doing now. I mean, we're not doing shit.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that, that month and a half where I did go out and bust my ass, it was worth it because now, I snuck down to the boat dock that's like 5 minutes from my house. I'm like, oh, I'm taking pictures. Like,
yeah, I know.
I don't know if I'm allowed to be out here like this.
Dude, it's so weird. It feels like every time you do anything, it feels like I'm like robbing a bank or something.
I know.
In addition to the fact that everyone's got a freaking, mask or like a bandana on,
I went to Home Depot today and because I had to rent I'm putting a patio. I just put a patio in. It's been like a 3-week process that I've been doing.
I've been watching, dude. It looks good.
Yeah, I did finally just finish like the big part of it. So I go at like 6:30 in the morning and I'm not, you know what I mean? Because I want to go. I don't want to be around people. I'm like, I shouldn't be out. And if I'm going to be out, I might as well just like stay the hell away from people.
Right.
I go early and I actually just took a pillowcase and I just put it over my head. I didn't like face and it didn't fly.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that's one of those. That's one of those like, do you look like a guy with a pillowcase over your head, or do you look like some like white knight of like Philadelphia kind of thing where you're like, oh shit, like I should not look like this right now.
Right? It was funny because I was just like, yo, like I was just like, because I couldn't figure out how to tie it because it wouldn't go all the way. I figured out how to do like opposite corners.
Yeah.
like, make it work. But I was like, at first I was like, all right, screw this. I'm just going to put it over my head because I can still see through it. I was like, no, you can't do that. I was like, all right, no.
Right. Yeah, you easily could have ended up on like Barstool or like one of those, like you keep seeing all those things of just like, like quarantine costumes or whatever that they keep promoting.
Right.
My stupid light keeps falling down off of my.
Thank you.
I'm working with like a whole new setup today because
Okay.
I've been having an absolute like nightmare with my laptop, and like it was screwing up my external drives, and I like had no space left, and then
Oh Jesus.
and so I bought a whole new laptop, which I am excited about because like, hey, now I can go from rendering my time lapses in 4 hours to rendering them in like 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, right. But it's such a big deal. But yeah, man. So it's like I've got all this new stuff right now, and actually, this is the first. This is like the first anything, not even podcast. Like I haven't opened Lightroom or Photoshop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I haven't I don't even know if I've restarted it since I've like gotten everything on this machine yet. So
I actually don't even own a webcam. This is actually my work computer.
Oh really?
I brought it home this weekend just so I could use it for this.
Yeah.
I'm taking this home to work.
Yeah.
I'm still working full time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not complaining. I still check, so I'm happy.
Yeah, man. I hope it continues. My because it seems like lately there have been a lot of it seems like the layoffs for people that maybe thought that they'd be safe are like kind of starting to happen.
Right.
Like a buddy of mine was laid off today, and I've just been talking to other sort of salaried people that are you're starting to see like, oh yeah, like a third of the sales team is now gone, and like shit like that. And I was kind of wondering like when that kind of thing was going to happen, because obviously initially you go, if you're a photographer or if you're any sort of gig economy worker, it's like, well, RIP, like that's that.
That's it. Yep.
But maybe if you work for a software company or something like that, you think, okay, well, there's not a whole lot to do, but I'm still on payroll, and I'm kind of thinking like, I wonder if maybe over the next like month or so you're going to start seeing like everyone's going to have a friend or themselves going to be like, yeah, dude,
Right.
that's that.
I hope we get out of this soon enough.
Yeah.
To do. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's no good answer right now for any of it. So what do you
I know.
I'm just lucky enough. So I work for a startup, and we're all on 100% investor money.
Mm-hmm.
Money's already in the bank. It's sitting there. We're burning it anyway.
Right.
So might as well pay the people to come in and work. So we're lucky that we've got the work.
Well, how much is left? Like, do you know how long the ship can stay afloat prior to like revenue?
We've got we've got like 18 months worth of money left. And then even after that, we still need another like 2 to 3 years worth of investor money.
Okay.
So they do it in like 2-year stints.
Right.
Like get up to like that year, 6 months left, and then they go back out and do another round of fundraising.
Right.
And they get it. So
right.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Because the data is good. That's all that matters. Data is good.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's funny you mentioned like the whole who knows what to think. It's like who knows what to think at like a citizen level, right?
Right.
But at the same time, like, when you watch the news or when you hear people, like there's a lot of conflicting stuff, and there's even conflicting stuff from like the same channel, like the same person on any given day. Like, remember, I mean, the weird thing for me is like how for a while it was like, don't worry about masks. That's just some stupid Eastern thing. Like, we don't do that here in the States. Like, we don't believe in masks. Like, it was almost this like anti-mask thing. And then the CDC, like a week ago, was like, just kidding. Like, if you have anything, make sure you put it over your face.
Right. And honestly, so I work in pharma. So, obviously like working with all the time, I know that masks work. You know what I mean? So like my boss was like, right when this started, my boss, he went online, like when it was still in China, and he was like 100 N95s. Cloth this, filters that. He's got everything. And I'm like, you sure? He goes, I'm telling you right now, they're going to shut the shit down. They're going to tell people not to buy them. And he goes, I'm going to just have enough for me and my, his wife, because he's got like a 1-year-old. So
Right.
I'm going to do enough to keep us safe for like 6 months. And, you watch. It's literally to a T what happened.
Yeah. He Nostradamus the shit out of that.
He's a prepper. So,
Oh, really?
Already like heightened to that point.
Right.
So it was like he automatically went to like worst case scenario.
Right. It's funny, man. Like the preppers were right. Everyone like used to always shit on the preppers,
Yeah.
like, this idiot, like have fun in your bomb shelter, you douchebag.
Yeah.
And now it's like, guess who's got the last laugh? It's like, now it's like every guy that was like a sarcastic asshole, like me included, it's like I'm going over to my neighbor, like, oh, it's a nice bomb shelter. How many thousands of Campbell soup did you say you had in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great idea, man.
Right. And then it's crazy. It's just, you don't have, nobody expected anything like this to ever happen. So what are you going to do?
No.
There's
Why do you
to
think,
do.
when your boss said like he was going to stock up on these masks and he said that they're going to say to not stock up on them, do you think that that's because the CDC thinks that no, masks are actually good, but we just don't want to have a big run on masks to take them away from like medical people?
100%.
So that's it. So they said they know it's a good idea to have.
They know it's a good idea, but because it wasn't a recommendation. So if you go back and you actually listen and look at the specific wording that they don't say you don't need masks. They say we are not recommending them at this time.
Right.
So it's a play on words. It's one of those things where they can step back and be like, hey, we never told you not to buy them. We just told you we're not recommending them. And please, if you do, like, we want to keep them for the medical people.
Right. So they sort of keep the lawsuits at bay, kind of. By
100%. Every word when they come up with those things has a very specific gray area or way of them saying like, yo, we didn't do that. Like, I work with the FDA all the time, and they do the same exact thing. The way things are written are in a way for how did you interpret it?
Right.
The deal.
Right. So, yeah, it's like talking to a therapist. Like, like why is it this way? Like, well, is there a reason that you'd like it to be that way? Like, fuck.
Right.
What is it that your company does?
We do it's therapies for cancer research. So basically, they take cells. They take your cells out of your body. We basically train them, giving them like the code, like, hey, those are the baddies over there.
Right.
Put it back in the person, and then it goes and attacks what we told it to attack.
Interesting.
Basically, fighting cancer without, invasively doing it.
Right. Well, targeting like the specific cancerous area, and that's it. Is that the idea?
No, so they just put it back in your body, and it's kind of like with this antibody thing that they're talking about with the coronavirus.
Corona, yeah.
So they're saying like, oh, well, if we can take the antibodies out of this person and give it to that person, and then it can help fight it off. That's essentially what we're doing, but it doesn't really work with like your immune system never really picks up on cancer until it's too late. So we go in and be like, yo, no, this is the thing you want to go fight. And then you throw up a whole bunch of them, put them back in the person, and then they still replicate even more. And now you can, they're like, oh, wait, that thing over there. Yeah, we got to go get that. So that's what it is. So it's like radiation, because, radiation is everything in a certain area that you're doing.
Right.
This is just taking what it needs to.
Right. It's layer masking for,
Exactly. 100%.
We don't need to boost the saturation. We just need to, just the orange, or whatever it is.
100%. It's exactly what it is.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. It's cool stuff. And it's successful to this point. You know what I mean?
Right.
We wouldn't be getting money for this, I think the company's like 7 or 8 years old now. You know what I mean? If it didn't have a promise, I doubt people would be investing millions of dollars into this stuff. So.
Yeah. So are you primarily like the research company that tries to make it happen, and then once it does, now the company can make a ton of money? Or is it like, are you sort of manufacturing something that is then sold to doctors or companies like already.
We're kind of like right there we're like the developer and the manufacturer of it. So like we develop it and then put it into use in our labs, and then it goes back to the patient.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, I remember I saw this documentary on, I think it might have been yeah, you know what? In fact, it was a Vice documentary, and it was maybe like a year or two ago. And they were talking about, it was a really interesting, and I'm sure there's probably like 100, or more different like strategies of curing cancer right now.
Oh,
like
a million.
potential, and I remember in the episode that the Vice guy, I can't remember his name, but like, the main guy with like, goatee or something. It was like you could tell he was clearly very excited about it. And I guess he was almost saying like, this is the cure, or if there's enough money here, like eventually it will be the cure or something.
Right.
And the general strategy was like to take other viruses. I think like AIDS was even one of them. It was like AIDS was one, and like there was a couple other weird ones, and they were like, we're going to inject the cancer with this like genetically mutated version of AIDS, such that it is only capable of killing the cancer and nothing else.
So essentially, that's what our company does. We take a viral vector. So basically, you've taken, I don't know what they're using, but it's the viral portion of it, the transmission portion of that, and they pull out the bad part and they stick in this, these cells. So what it does is it goes and it finds the cancer cell and it injects it with the cells that will eventually end up killing it, or reducing what it is. So that's basically we grow the cells for what they are, and then they take this viral vector and it puts it directly where it needs to go. It says, oh, that's the thing I want to go attack, and then it injects it with the cells.
That's pretty cool.
It's insane. Give it 10 years, man. I'm telling you.
You think you think it's going to be an ancient memory?
You're going to be like, yeah, my doctor said something about pancreatic. Yeah, I'll take one of those off the shelf.
Right.
Maybe not that much, but it'll definitely be to the point where, you'll have multiple things that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
You could, right now you're like, oh, time for radiation. But in the future, you're going to be like, okay, do I want to go a viral route? Do I want to go a homeopathic route? Do I want to go invasive? There's going to be so many different things that you're going to be able to choose from.
Right. But ultimately, it'll be like a relatively minor thing. Like it won't have the sort of,
it's basically
level of terror, I guess, that it had. Like, now someone says, it's fuck. I mean, like the worst thing anyone could say.
Right. Yeah. You're basically like doing dialysis, and then 3 weeks later you're getting everything back, and then it's like it works that easily at this point. So
yeah, that's crazy, man. Well, that's cool that you work for a company like that. It's cool that you're able to still have a job. That's for sure. I mean, could definitely be worse. You could be sitting around wondering if those 14 weddings are going to still be on or canceled or what,
I couldn't even. My sister is a wedding photographer and a studio photographer, and she's got nothing. She's not doing a single thing right now.
Yeah, I know it, man. It sucks. And I think that probably a lot of people will just postpone it. Like I know my wife's cousin is now getting married in it was supposed to be June. I think she pushed it off to October. And I would imagine that by October things would be normal enough. I mean, then again, like who the hell knows, but I would bet it'd be okay by October.
Yeah, I'm truthfully like, I mean, Jersey's locked down till May 9th now. They just changed it, so I think the shutdown order is May 9th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it much further than that. Now, I don't think it'd be like, oh, well, everything's completely normal again. You know what I mean? Like, let's just go back to work and everyone goes out to the restaurants the next day. But I think that, hopefully all of these restrictions and everything will have been lifted by then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. So I was talking to, do you know Sam Woosley, another like he's kind of more of like a videographer, I guess. He's in LA.
Okay.
Anyway, I did a podcast with him a couple of days ago, and one of the things we were sort of talking about was like exactly what you said. The idea that, you know, it's not as though the government says, okay, guys, we're going to loosen the restrictions. Non-essential business can now go back into play. It's not like everyone's going to go, great, like, let's all go to like Bonnaroo, like, let's all go to Coachella, like, let's all get on a plane. Like, it's not going to happen, because I think that there is a thing that happens to you. You begin to normalize this idea of like, you know, I don't really want to be around too many people, or like traveling just seems like it's like it's sort of turned everyone into like OCD, you know, germophobic type of people. And and I think that a ton of industries are still going to suffer. Like, I feel like you know, I may not fly in 2020, you know, I might not do that, because I don't know, just
right. Like so I had luckily already planned that I wasn't doing any trips this year, because by January I've already booked my flights and I'm already ready to go for the whole next year. I try to do it all right at one time. But I already said, like, I'm taking the van and I'm going, and that's what I'm going to be doing this year. But obviously I'm not going anywhere, but I don't have to deal with trying to get my money back or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm planning March next year. Like, I'm already planning for March next year. I'm 11 months ahead. And, you know, it's tough because I want to do New Zealand because I have a buddy out there that I can go hang out with. And he was saying he doesn't know if they're going to actually open up the country like that by then, because they're really, really trying to like shut things down in New Zealand. And if you think about it, like, just the politics in New Zealand, they are very, you know, balls to the wall with everything. Like, they had that unfortunate mass shooting that happened, and it was immediately like, guns are done.
Right.
You know, with this, they were like, oh, somebody died from coronavirus, no one's coming in the country. Like, when are they, you know, they do go that, they immediately go from 0 to 100. At what point do they pull that curtain back and they're like, all right, well, we're going to start allowing tourists to come back again? Because they're not, their country's not very big on tourism. Like, it's not like, you know, it's not like Iceland where they get a ton of money because they get everybody in there, you know, so they could probably really, you know, take a couple years off and be okay.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a common misconception. I didn't realize that was the case about New Zealand. I knew that was the case with Australia, where they were very like stringent about that. It's funny because people often, you know, compare like American politics to, you know, whatever other countries' politics sort of suits their argument in that moment.
Right.
And Australia is like a popular one where people sort of assume is this very, I guess, like liberal, or at least like socially kind of liberal place. And I think that probably is true for the most part, up until the point that you get to immigration. And they're straight up like, they will tell a boat that has been in the water for like a month, and people, you know, they get like conditions and all, and they're just like, turn the fucking boat around and go and like around.
Yeah, they do. And that's the thing, is that New Zealand's the same way. I mean, I couldn't believe it. He was like, yeah, like, you can't even come here if you're not from here right now. Like, they've just got it shut down to that point, and that's from anywhere at this. Like, I think, like, if you have coronavirus in your country, you can't go, but now that's everywhere. So who knows what they're going to do. So
I wonder if maybe they would, like, once you're able to sort of get like the test for it, have you well, I guess there's two issues. One is that you have to have some sort of certificate that says I have it. But then two is, I guess it's still inconclusive as to whether or not that even means that you're immune. Like, isn't that still kind of up in the air?
It's so crazy because, like, could you imagine living in a world where you're like, all right, look here, scan this. I'm free.
Yeah.
Have this, like, I don't want to think about living in that world. Like, I will literally, as much as I'd like to travel, I won't travel just because I don't want to, you know what I mean? I don't want to be a part of that. It's like,
it is weird, man.
Like, show me your papers, you know, like,
right.
Like, I'm clean, I promise. Like,
I know. Yeah, it's like one, you know, tattoo away from like, here's my like barcode on my forearm, you know? Yeah.
I've never in my life like thought that could ever happen. And like, when people talk about it, I'm like, oh, you're fucking crazy. Like, stop saying that shit.
Right.
And that dude got ripped off the SEPTA bus yesterday. Did you see that?
No, what happened?
They made a rule on Wednesday that you had to have a mask on or you couldn't ride SEPTA. So then first thing Thursday morning, someone gets on SEPTA without a mask and they were like, get off. He's like, I'm not fucking going anywhere. They had 8 cops rip this dude off the fucking bus.
This week, SEPTA operators gained the right to refuse to transport passengers that were not wearing face masks. But after police forcibly removed a rider who was not masked from a bus this morning, that rule has been rescinded. The man was physically dragged off a SEPTA bus by Philadelphia PD at 11th and Market Streets. He was resisting, holding on as tightly as he could, refusing to get off.
And I was like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you read the thing about like potentially needing to prove that you don't have the coronavirus, whether it's a test or a certificate or here's my antibody. I was like, man, I don't know how much I like this stuff. Like,
I know. Yeah, it does. It's like it's almost like it's the sequel of the first book. And like the first book is like this virus came and it was a psychological thriller and like, oh my God, like the NBA shutting the season down. Like, oh, you know, like all this stuff happens. And then the sequel to that book is like, we're sort of good now. Like it's worse that it got, but now comes like the dystopian aspect of the series where,
right.
You know, it's like who can afford the certificate and who can't. And, you know,
I can't believe we've gotten to the place where you can't even, like, don't get me wrong, I think masks are good, obviously. It's, you know, I know that, right. But like the people that are like calling on the neighbors, like, oh, I saw 4 kids hanging out in the street together. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but instead of calling the cops, maybe like go talk to them from 6 feet away and, you know, explain the situation. Like, we don't go, daddy cops, come break up these 4 kids in the street.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's weird how it's become this like shaming thing.
Right.
And it's everywhere too. And I mean, I don't know what that is. I think our society is just one of those weird things, at least in our country, I think, where people just everyone kind of loves that like moral high ground thing, right, when they can get it, like whatever it is, you know, it shows up all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe this is kind of the new version of that, because like no one can do anything. So it's like, how can I prove my, you know, right, my whatever, how I'm such a great person, and because I've been in sweatpants for a week. You know, how long have you been in your sweatpants? You know, or whatever it is.
True, dude. I have to admit, dude, I've unfollowed like 24 people on Instagram, like close people.
Right.
I can't fucking take them anymore.
Because it's just
it's constant. It's just constant negativity. It's look what this person's doing. Fuck that person. Like, look at these on the ground. And like, and the worst one, it kills me, is like, stay home. And then like the next day they're out shooting sunrise.
Dude, I remember I saw that update, that post. I remember that one resonated with me because I was like, yeah, it is. It's like, here's my, I need a moral victory while I'm eating my cereal, and then the next
right,
thing, you know, just like, oh yeah, like let's go to the lake and skip rocks or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Like I'm sorry. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we should be staying at home, but if you're going by yourself to go do a sunset down the street, you know, obviously if you're driving like an hour and a half to like New York City, and like yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm driving to the boat dock over here, that's 3 minutes down the road, and I'm by myself, like, who am I hurting?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
The social distance part is, in my opinion, is way more important and way more valuable than, you know, staying at home and then just trying to rat on everybody that's going out. It kills me because there's a freaking gnat flying around me right now.
And, you know, what's funny is that because the webcam quality is like not that good, you just look like you're some senile person swatting at nothing.
I'm like, I don't know where he came from, but yeah, it's just I don't like it, and I had to unfollow people, and like I got called out. Like, first of all, I don't know how.
What do you mean? Like someone was like, "How dare you unfollow me" or something?
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. And I was like, I don't like, number one, my biggest thing is how the fuck did you notice? Like,
Well, because they've got one of those apps that keeps track of all.
oh, you're probably right. I didn't even
It's one
think
of
of that because I
those.
was just thinking, I was like, how the hell would somebody notice
Yeah,
that I did that?
yeah,
But yeah, a lot of people getting upset, man. And I'm just like, hey, I mean, I don't know. I go on Instagram to look at fucking pictures.
Mhm.
Like maybe I'll throw something, you know, a little political here, a little there every once in a while, but it's definitely not an everyday, you know, I want to make sure everybody knows how I feel type of
Right,
thing.
right. You don't use it as a soapbox. You
Right.
just occasionally there's one thing. It's like I can't fucking believe this. Like, all right, I'll say that, but like,
Right, exactly.
it's not this.
more-
Let me tell you all how to be, and
and hey, you know, I lost a couple friends.
oh shit, really?
Oh yeah, yeah. But I don't. You know what? It doesn't bother me because, like, honestly, if they're gonna be upset, then that just shows to me that they either don't believe what they're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and they because if you truly believed it, and like you didn't think that it was right or whatever, you wouldn't care what I thought.
Right.
Like if I unfollowed you because you're like, oh well, he's an idiot. Good riddance type
Right.
of like to give me all this shit for it. And like it's like 4 or 5 people now have given me shit for unfollowing.
Right. No kidding. Man,
Yeah.
what a weird world. I don't know what's weirder, what's going on, or the weird like arguments that I mean it's like, not to go here, but I mean it's it's like a Trump thing as well, where it's like people just straight up are like, you're not welcome at my dinner table anymore.
Right.
And it's like, look, I get the vitriol. Like I'm not saying I don't understand. Like I understand completely. But at some point, it's also like this is still a temporary thing. Like this, he's not going to be there forever. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, it's like potentially losing a friendship over something that might last, in the case of the president, 8 years, or in the case of the coronavirus, like I don't know, maybe like 6 months.
Right.
Seems trivial, 30 years from now.
But that's the way I look at it is like, hey, like if we can't get along in this small window of time, then all right, well, it wasn't going to work in the long run anyway, because there was probably going to be something else that I pissed.
Right.
So it's like, all right, no harm, no foul. So at least to me, it's no harm, no foul.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a good way to be. I can't believe that. I mean, what did they say when they were people like, you unfollowed me, but like you're a piece of shit for thinking this thing? Or was it like, you unfollowed me, like, dude, maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Like, yeah. I get why you might have thought this, like, or maybe I can try to dial it back. Like there was no sort of olive branch, or
no, so none of them offered an olive branch. It was more like, there was a lot of like, how do I put it? It was kind of in between the two of those. It was kind of like, hey, like, why did you unfollow me? And basically my answer to all of them were like, when I go to Instagram, my tiny brain can't take all of this political stuff just to look at pretty colors. Like,
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I go, truthfully, if it wasn't for pictures, I would not be on Instagram.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, that's my true reason for being there. So if I log in and the only thing I'm seeing are political things all the time, then I don't want that. So I'll just leave. And if that was all the platform was, I'd be gone tomorrow.
Right.
Wash his ass. I would delete it. And, people who I unfortunately didn't have contact with before, I wouldn't have contacted with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was just more of like, oh, if you if you want to live in your own world and not follow, and not realize what's happening, it's like, okay, like then I'll live in my own little world, because that's all I care about. Like,
yeah.
Not horrible, but like, I know that there's politics going on, but there's a time and a place for it. And to me, on Instagram, or leave that shit for Facebook. Like,
right.
Facebook's for.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Facebook is that spot. Like, Facebook is the argument social media,
right? I haven't had Facebook in 10 years. I deleted
it for you
years ago, and never looked back because it got to that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. It was arguments. It was stupid stuff. And I was just like, literally, I think it was planking was the time that I left. So,
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was forever ago.
yeah. So it was like, I remember somebody like was like, fuck planking. It's so stupid. And then like the next time they posted, there was like 40 pictures of them planking on things. And then
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 other things happened. I was like, all right, that's enough for me. Like, I've had enough of this.
Right.
So,
The moment you start to feel that like irrational anger where you're like, this is upsetting me, I shouldn't be getting upset. It's like,
right. And that's the whole thing, is that like, especially with Instagram, is that like, you know, the politics on Instagram, it's a lot of it is one-sided. You know, there's never anybody who's like, hey, can we all just come together and just be friends? You know what I mean? It's always either this way or that way. And, you know, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that, that in those, like, I find myself saying this as I've gotten older, I guess, like maybe over the past 5 or so years, that like the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, in between those two things, whatever they are.
Right.
And for whatever reason, like people are always seem to think that like their opposites or whatever, the people that they disagree with are like much different from them. And the truth is they're not really that different. It's like there's this,
Exactly.
you get worked up about something, like it's usually it's like a 0.5% of the whole, and then you allow that to just
Right. You probably agree with people on like 90% of stuff.
right.
That 10% on the two sides where everyone like, oh, I can't believe you believe that. Like that's ridiculous. And then that's the line.
Right. Rabble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, hey, I joined Instagram to meet photographers and show my work and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, you know, if that's not what, if the relationship we're having is not that, then I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Not my purpose here. My purpose here is not to know what everybody ate for breakfast today.
Yeah.
That's why I don't follow food accounts, because I don't care what you ate for breakfast.
Right. Isn't it amazing and absurd, some of the things that have ended up being cliches that like lead to like insta fame and people that are like now sponsored, and they're like, you know, maybe potentially doing pretty well for things like, you know, it used to seem like a cliche would develop and I would know that it was a cliche, but the truth is I was like, yeah, but that is pretty cool.
Right.
But nowadays I feel like a good, you know, half of the cliches that you see, especially ones on Instagram, I'm like, really? Like this is a thing? And it's that you click on some of it and it's, you know, like 100,000 likes and you're like,
right.
What? How is that possible?
And Instagram is so bad with the trends.
Right.
Like I remember the string lights. Do you remember the portraits with string lights? One photographer, one professional did that, and it was everywhere. And then the other one was like the girl who's like posing like this at night, and then she has the color wheel around.
Oh God. Oh yeah. That one.
Everywhere.
It's like I've never even attempted to do that. I don't even want to try to do it now. It's like
I have been with people who really wanted to try it out. So I was like, I mean, shit, we're not doing it. Like we go out to shoot the Milky Way, and it's it doesn't rise for 2 hours. You want to do this? I'm like, yeah, why not? Like it's cool. I'm not hot enough to do that. So like I'm like crane model. And I'm like trying to do stuff.
Right. It's like in order to qualify to be that, you know, spinny person, like your ass has to at least be able to get 2,000 likes or more without any hashtags. And unless you're at that status, you have no business spinning a fucking light thing.
No business. Yeah, so it was pretty funny. But yeah, like, oh God, those are the two biggest ones that stand out to me, because I feel like there's a good way to do it and a bad way. And I feel like a lot of people do it the bad way.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's, oh, cool. Now we got to go do that. And then the other cliche, I don't even know if it's a cliche, but like once a place gets super popular, I'm done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't go and do it. I mean, you know, you go to Horseshoe Bend,
Oh
You know,
yeah, well that's the prime one.
you go to
Yeah.
Horseshoe Bend and you go take the picture. I understand that. Like, it's a big thing. Or the Grand Canyon. You know what I mean? It is a thing. But
Yeah,
when
but there's 3,000 people in line to get there.
right. When you get down to that micro level of a photo, it's like a very specific, like, that's in Stowe, Vermont, you have that red barn at the end of
Yes.
the road and all the fall colors are behind it. You have to put your tripod in the same exact spot.
Right.
And to me, it kills it. It's
Right.
just done for me because, like, at that point, you've lost the creativity.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, to your point, there are a lot of great photos which are great only because of that particular composition. It's a beautiful scene. Like, like sometimes you're just walking around in the woods and you say to yourself, man, like this is such a, trippy environment, or this is such a cool, like the light is doing something or whatever. And you're like, man, this is really cool. And then you're just like, I have no idea. I mean, maybe this doesn't happen to you. I don't know. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have no idea how to shoot this. I just don't.
All the time.
I just,
All
like
the
I'm
time.
looking around, I'm like, this is great, but I do not know how to shoot this. And I think there's some places where it's like you could try 100 other things, and it's like, nope, like that's the composition, and that original person did it, and stop. All you're doing is copying that person.
And don't get me wrong, it's if that's what you want to go do, and that's what you want for your collection, by all means. Like, I'm not telling people, like, and I try to explain it to people that I know, because I talk to a lot of photographers all the time. And another big one is Niagara Falls in the wintertime when it starts to freeze over. There's a
The
little,
one from behind the,
you're up on the railing and you shoot the little building that's like covered in ice.
yeah,
And you have the waterfall that's coming down behind it.
yep,
It's the same frame
right,
every time. No one goes extra wide. No one goes portrait. Or
no, it's like a 70 to 200, I think, is what people use, right?
and they do it in portrait mode, and they take the same exact photo.
Right.
And it's just, you see a different color because the light show for that night was a different color.
Right.
I get it. Like, that's great that you took that photo and you keep it for yourself. But like, when I see someone that shows me a good photo, I want to see, like, 90% of what makes a photo to me good is how fucking unique it is.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be the best sunrise you've ever seen in your life. That's what takes, like, Spring Garden Street Bridge shot and makes it good, is if you get the lighting perfect.
Right.
It's been done a million times.
Right.
If you put that down and knock it down perfect, I get it. Like, but if you just go and take, like, kind of like a normal mediocre, it doesn't do it for me. Like, show me pictures from places that are new,
Mm-hmm.
or have something crazy going on, like a normal, no clouds in the sky with the sun at like F16 with a starburst coming over Niagara Falls. I'm like that's one of your best photos you've ever taken. Like, come on, man. And that's the thing, is I'm like, I know these photographers are better than that.
Right.
And they just see, they're like scrolling, we're going to go do this one next week. And I'm like, have fun. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think the fact is like, that's the hardest thing to do. I mean, it's like, there's a difference between, I think, like effort and like obsession and wanting to learn and get better. Like, and that's all very important, but there's a
Right.
difference, I think, between that and just that sort of natural raw talent that some people have in different elements. And I'm not even saying that I have that. I'm just merely talking about it, like,
Right.
Because I'm guilty of it too, man. It's like, I don't even really know how to shoot Philly at this point, because I just I've kind of done all the major, like you said, I've gone to
Right.
Spring Garden. I've done a bunch of time lapsing there. Like,
It's
I've gone
tough.
to South Street Bridge and everything. But yeah, at a certain point, it's like, I mean, unless you're sitting on Google Earth like a lot, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you're really like, oh, wait a second. Or you're using photo pills to the point where it's like, there's one particular shot that you have in mind, and you calculate it where, like, okay, it's 7 months from now.
Right.
Like, that's the effort that it actually takes to make a photo that makes you go, okay, that person is an artist, and not just somebody that kind of like sat on
Agreed.
YouTube for a while and said, I know how to expose this and I know how to edit it, and I'm going to go do that thing.
Right. So, like, for me, I went out 2 years ago And I told everyone, I said, all my story that night, I was like, if you don't go out and shoot sunrise tomorrow, you are not trying. Tomorrow will be the best sunrise in Philadelphia, probably history, not, but like, if you take photography seriously, you will meet me on Spring Garden Street Bridge. We'll go do this tomorrow morning. And wouldn't you know, one person showed up.
Really?
No idea who he was. I've never met him in my life. He was just like, yeah, he goes, I see your pictures all the time. And, you know, I figured that you knew what you were talking about. So here I am. And wouldn't you know, it was probably the best sunrise I've ever seen in Philadelphia. Just because it just by chance, the cloud lineup showed that it was going to do something.
Right.
Did it.
Right.
We got 3 different sunrises that morning. We got like an hour before sunrise, it was pink.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned into the red, the deep red. And
yeah,
this like fiery orange right as the sun came up. It was unbelievable. We got 3 different photos from one morning, 2 over the street portion, and then 1 over top of the water.
Right.
It's like, what more could you ask for?
And
So
when you
like,
say, I was going to say, when you say you got 3 photos, I'm assuming, because when I think that way, I think like, if I'm that excited about it, I'm thinking like portfolio level, like,
right.
Like, okay, this is like, I'm not going to edit this for 2 minutes. I'm going to spend like a few hours, like making sure it's fucking perfect.
So, kind of branching off of that, I've gotten in a really, really bad habit where I go out and shoot and I don't edit for 6 to 8 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Because when I get back to my computer, if I don't feel the same way about the photo as I did when I took it, I don't really spend time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I'll put it through and then, post it up on Instagram and be like, okay, cool. It was fun. But like the stuff that like, if I'm looking and I'm like, oh, oh man, I remember this morning. Then I'm like, all right, sit down and do it the right way and put that in the book, put that in my book, get that out there for people to see.
Yeah, you really do have to want to do it. You're right. Like I've had some stuff where I put something off and it was like, I could never really find that. It was almost like I knew that I needed to do a good job because I knew, like I always think about like raw files as like, ammunition, but like, you're not really, you still have to fire the gun or whatever, So
right,
like,
right.
And it's like, man, I've got some good ammo right now. Like I've got some good, stuff that's like loaded up for later. But if you don't feel, like you said, really like psyched to do it,
Right.
I don't know, because it's like you really it's such a stupid obsession. I mean, there are times, especially with like compositing like Milky Way stuff, I mean, when you're just like, dude, it's gonna take me so long to like mask around these stupid trees and like whatever it is, and like, but you have to care that much if you want any chance of like, virality. Like if you want any chance of like, is this going to get a few hundred likes and great, or is this, is some other account going to repost it or what? Like, are people going to go, wow, man, seriously, good job.
Right. This, and that's the thing is that like, I can't tell you how many times before I've edited something and then like go back 6 weeks later and I look at my post and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking when I did?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this looks like garbage. And it was just like, oh, I got to quick and I got to do it. And then I got to post it on the Instagram and look at how many people are liking it. And it's like, if you actually take a deep breath and you sit down and you pay attention to what you're doing and you spend more than 30 seconds editing it, then like, it will turn into something that you're like, hey, like, this is absolutely gorgeous. Like, this is beautiful. So I don't know. I guess when it like coming full circle, it's like you've either gotta go out to a known location a lot to find that rare moment of light or fire, something that's going on that makes your photo unique, or you need to put your boots on the ground and go find something that's unique. And you need to step back and you need to see like, okay, well, here's where everybody takes it. Well, where can I go? How can I loop around this? Where can, what is the condition that I can get to for this that makes it that much unique, but also at the same time good?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely a balance.
I have this debate. I've had this debate for a while with some of my friends that work in some creative field or another about like, my opinion. And again, I'm not even saying that I qualify for anything that I'm saying. I'm just talking. I'm riffing.
Hey, you're an award winner, okay?
Hey, I'll take it. I do have an award. Yes. I know it's like they didn't send me like a trophy or a plaque or anything, but yeah.
Well, you know what? We'll make one for you.
Yeah.
Out of tinfoil.
Participation trophy. Thanks. Jesus, what the hell was I going to say? So like the difference sort of between like the real true artist and I don't want to say wannabe because that just sounds like really malicious or something.
Right.
But the thing that makes the true artist seems to be, in my opinion, the person that can sort of like just know. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't need to like see a tutorial necessarily, or they don't need to like, how did I shoot this? And then kind of like, well, I'm going to follow it step by step or whatever. It seems to be the person that just has this feeling and then they go and do something and then they're right. And that's what I was saying before. Like, that's so hard to do. Like
It's so hard. It's crazy. I mean, it's funny because I'm not going to drop any names, but I know people, award-winning photographers, posted photos online and asked someone to edit it for them.
No shit.
Yeah, and then like taking the stuff off and been like, oh, and it's a perfect edit. Like, don't get me wrong, like it's beautiful. The composition is right, everything is right, but like you didn't know what to do past taking the photo. Like there's a whole second world now when it comes to this stuff. And honestly, I know how to do 2 things in Photoshop. That's it. Like I can layer something and I can like expose like what do you call that? Exposure blend. That's and like that's all I know how to do. But like there are so many people out there who like can literally like Chris Heisia or
good example. Yeah,
unbelievable. You could take a photo that's like bland and boring and make it beautiful.
Right. It almost doesn't matter like what you shoot when you've got that level of Photoshop.
But that's again, he takes a normal location and a completely boring spot that everybody's seen 100 times, and he makes it so unique that it's beautiful.
Yeah, you're totally right. That's a good call. And you see a lot of that with like nightscape stuff. Now, granted, nightscape is an interesting category, I think, because you can definitely go too far. Like you've seen that where you're just like I want the sunset, I want the sun star, I want all the gold hour light, I also want blue hour, I want the brightest fucking Milky Way that you've ever seen with like full, like all sorts of presets and everything. And and like the unfortunate thing about it is that like for photographers that have kind of been at it for a while and maybe you had like a moment where you like that's the best thing in the world, but then eventually you move past and you see the amount of credit that stuff like that gets because to the average person they're just like, wow, like where was that taken? Like they don't realize it, like, dude, this is 100% bullshit.
Right.
And I mean, even I was like that, like before I was taking photos, I remember I would see some crazy, like, HDR thing that was just a way stupid amount of HDR. And I'd be like, wow, like this is insane.
If I showed you my work from 10 years ago, it's so cringeworthy, man. It is like, how many levels of like clarity can we shove on fucking picture?
Right. Yeah.
Like, it is so bad. But and that's that I'd say is kind of like the big trend right now is like that whole like, sunset on the lower level and then like blue hour into the Milky Way. And then like the foreground is like pretty much daytime. And it's like, don't get me wrong. You do want to have like a good foreground and you do want like, details and stuff, but it's like, where's this bright red sunset with the freaking Milky Way above it? Like,
I know. And there are, and I mean, there are guys that are still good at it. Like, I mean, it's kind of like there's unrealistic photos that are just bad, where it's just like, dude, like stop. And then there's also unrealistic photos where you're like, wow, like it's still kind of believable though. Like this, it
Right.
looks like this could have happened. I know
At
it
that
didn't.
point, right. At that point, it's like an artwork. You know, it's kind of
Right.
like Chris. Again, coming back to Chris. You know,
Yes,
I love
exactly.
his stuff. Where like it's still a photo. He's taking everything, but it's kind of like it's more of a piece of art at the time that he gets done some of his work.
Yeah.
But it still works.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like 25% photography and 75% like artist.
Right. And that's, you know, I feel like that line is getting so blurred right now.
Totally,
You know,
man.
and I don't want to go too far. That's why I know how to do two things. I know how to exposure blend and I know how to layer. Because when you take your Milky Way, you do want a brighter foreground in it. You know, it just looks that much better. So
yeah. And I mean, as a guy who does, like, I would say probably mostly landscape, you know, I would say, right. Would you agree? You mostly do landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like, those are like the two, that's 90% of what you need is just like, as long as you can composite like a little bit well, and you can make the lighting look, you know, reasonably okay. Like you probably, you're, you know, that's 75% of
that. That was probably the hardest thing for me to figure out in photography total was not necessarily the Photoshop portion of that, but it was more the how do I want it to look in camera so that when I bring it to Photoshop, it doesn't, I don't have to do any work in Photoshop. So like for me, that makes a sunset photo a good sunset photo, in my opinion, for the work that I do. Now, don't get me wrong. There's people out there that are doing sunsets that are like, you know, over the moon. They're incredible. But I like to take my photo, my perfect sunset sky, and completely silhouette the foreground.
Right.
I don't move the camera for 45 minutes to an hour.
And then get the little bit of shadow detail.
And well, I just get all the city lights.
Okay. Yeah.
And then all you do is you just put the two in the Photoshop and you click one button and it's done. But to me, that just brings kind of like
what, lighten?
You can't get that foreground in the sky at sunset when you're shooting pretty much directly from the sun. You know what I mean? So it's nice to me because I get to see, you know, you get to bring that detail back. While still getting the sunset itself. So
yeah, and that's
a little bit of a stretch, but it's more of an exposure blend or a time blend, I guess you could say, than anything else.
Yeah, a time blend is probably I would say the best term. And you know, and I don't know, I guess it's a bad thing overall. If a gun to my head, I would say it's probably a bad thing overall. But that does seem to be like, that's like the threshold of like just a good landscape photographer is you have to really be able to time blend, because a single exposure landscape photo in 2020 is just boring 99% of the time. It just do not stand up. And that was one realization I remember I had a few years ago was like, oh my God, like every single photo online that I'm like, wow, like none of them are a single exposure ever.
Right. Yep.
Ever.
It's a huge blow to your ego.
Yeah.
Oh, if I just get good and I go out enough and I learn stuff, I'll be good to go. And then you're like, all right, I'm there after 10 years. And you're like, well, shit, now I got to blend time together.
Yeah.
That's like, and that was another hard thing to learn is that like, when you go out to take a picture, you have to make a commitment. And that's the hardest thing for people to learn is that you know, I'm going to South Street Bridge and this is the frame I want. Okay, lock that down. Don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't work out, then I come back tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I can't chase the light because you never know. I can't tell you how many times I've messed up my time blends because, you know, I'm like, oh, well, all right, I'll just go wider and I shoot everything. And I'm like, oh, well, that's what I was looking for.
It ended up being good after 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, oh man. So you just have to like stick it, put it down, leave it, and just hope that it happens. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, you got to come back to the next day or, you know, the next time that that you get the light that you want. I mean, almost everything that I've ever done that I consider to be, my best work is kind of set it, just let me sit here. I sat for a shot in Yosemite. I was with Jared Borjali. He was chasing views.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I
So
think I
he kind of doesn't really do photos anymore. But I talked to him and everything. But him and I went to California, and it was one of the best setups I've ever seen in Yosemite. And I was so pumped for it. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know what to tell you, but this fog is in the way.
right.
I can tell you the conditions, these conditions are kind of rare. So I'm hanging. I don't know what to tell you, but we sat there for an hour and a half, and we got 10 seconds of clearing, got the photo, and it clouded right back over. And I was like,
Nice.
what do you want to do? Because that was my waste of time,
Right.
But we got the photo that we wanted.
Right.
And
And now everything else is gravy for the rest of the trip. Now it's like,
right.
oh, I can do some, let's just, fuck it, let's go there and see what happens.
Right? It's like Half Dome with the fog underneath of the top dome portion.
Right.
It's insane how it
Right. So you're saying just poking out of the
so it's you have the whole valley and everything's nice, and then there's just the fog over covering the Half Dome.
Right.
And we just sat there, and it just poked its head out for 10, 15 seconds. And then we're like, all right. It went right back away. We didn't see it the whole rest of the time we were around the valley. It just by chance popped out for that 15 seconds. If you're in a rush and you're like, all right, well, that's not going to happen. Then it's not going to happen because you're not going to be there for it.
Yeah. I think that the whole moving around thing is a little bit akin to this, on Instagram, it seems like a lot of different styles of photography get, kind of cross over into other ones, which is a good thing.
Right.
But I think what ends up happening is a lot of times, there's kind of the subculture of street photography, and there's the subculture of landscape photography, and people kind of tend to be almost a certain type of person
right.
to some degree. And I think that the whole street photography thing is this I'm this urban ninja guy, and I'm kind of, you know what I mean? I'm just this cool,
right.
content creator, bro, and it's I think if you're real tied up into that kind of style of you're very mobile, and you're just climbing abandoned buildings and shit, and you're the dude with the here's my feet in the foreground, that kind of stuff.
I still hate it.
Yeah, that's
still hate
another
it.
One.
Guilty.
The truth is,
guilty. Never posted it, but guilty.
Oh really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What was it? Was it a helicopter or a building or what?
It was once in a helicopter, and once on I want to say it was Horseshoe Bend. I think I did Horseshoe Bend.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost have to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I did it, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
What is this shit right here? But
right.
It comes back to the trends. You know what I mean? They were cool at the time when you're doing it, a couple years ago, and people still do it, just not quite as much. But that was
right.
the thing for years. That was a thing to do.
And wouldn't you love to be the guy or girl that did it the first time, and just how epic that'd be? Dude, I'm the OG. Imagine? Could you? You were saying, you were talking earlier about that Niagara Falls shot. I'm pretty sure that's a mind's eye shot.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about?
That was the first time that I've ever seen that, was through mind's eye. 100%.
And it was and I remember looking at that shot, and I was like, this is fucking Hoth or something from Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is so awesome.
I'm telling you, but it drives me crazy. And I know really, really good photographers who that's all they want to do.
And just get that exact shot.
They show me, and they're like, yo, you see this? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, all right, let's go do it. I'm like, no. Honestly, I used to take trips. I've been on trips with Jared. I've been on trips with Nick. I've been on trips with Vic, Ivan, just so many different photographers I've met off of Instagram. And I think I'm finally at the point. I'd probably go with Nick again, just because him and we have such the same mindset.
Right.
A very similar, when we're going, this is our idea. This is what we want to accomplish. Here are our locations. and we're going to the best one. And then like, I went on a trip with my buddy Jason, like in November, I guess. So like 6 months ago, I was an asshole. I feel so bad for him.
Right. Like he just casual photographer and you're just like, this is the shot like that.
And we just didn't, him and I, when we talk about something before we go out to shoot, we're great. Just by chance on that trip, the way that he wanted to run his trip and the way I wanted to run my trip, and we were with 4 other dudes too, and the way they wanted to run their trips, everything was just a mishmash of like craziness.
Right.
You know, I wanted to do this and go do that, and like, it just didn't work. I probably would go with my buddy Nick, Nick's Gym Philly. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know him personally, but I know the account. Yeah.
I'd probably go on a trip with him again. And it's not a, you know, saying that any of those other people I've gone on trips with are bad. It's just, I'm getting to that point where I'm getting selfish trips. And like with Jason, I feel really bad for Jason. He had to like go through that.
Right.
It wasn't like, you know, I was like, I'm going to fucking kill you type of thing. But like, I could just tell that like, at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, I'm being a dick.
Right.
I'm just being stupid, and like, I don't want to ruin a friendship because of something stupid. So like,
what was it like? What was it like? You know, he's into photography, but had he left and not had a good shot, he still would have been okay with it. And you're just like,
so
I'm
he's big.
Annoyed if I don't get this.
No, so like we were both on the same page with like, we're going for photography. This is what we're going to shoot. I got the net.
Hey.
I got him.
Good for you. Show him to the camera. Show the net to the camera.
I dropped him. Oh, no, kind of his dead body's right here.
Oh, excellent. I do see it, yeah.
A little bit of them. But it was just like, we both had the same mindset, but we both shoot kind of differently.
Okay.
That's what, it wasn't that our personalities didn't match. It was just our shooting styles kind of worked out a little bit differently. And like it was just, and it was tough because we're driving an hour minimum to get anywhere.
Right.
Canada is just so fucking big. So you're talking like we went up to Jasper one day. That's a 4-hour trip up. And we did that round trip. So 8 hours of that day we were going, you know, up and back. So it was like, it was just super stressful to begin with. And then we 2 different people, like having 2 completely different styles of shooting together. And, you know, like him and I, we still talk and everything. He's like, I didn't think you were ever going to talk to me again. I was like, no, like I realized it was that I was the problem. Like, it wasn't like we got great photos, like no doubt. Like we had a blast. I got 2 photos that are like, for the rest of my life will be in that booklet of best photos I've ever taken.
Right.
And that's, we both jived on that portion, but it was just the other stuff, you know, we just didn't work. But like I went with my buddy Nick to the Tetons here, and man, we just killed it. Like he would say something and it was like, yeah. Or I would say something, he's, yeah, like, let's do that. You know,
so was the issue with the other trip, like, I think what kind of segued into this is we were talking about the difference between the people that kind of stay in one spot and let it play out versus the people that are like, it's not exactly what I want. Fuck it. Let's just go over here. Was that the issue? Was that you were like, be patient? And he was like, no, it's not going to work. I'm going to go this way.
I think it was the opposite, to believe it or not. So like Canada is so strange because mountains are so big that you just have to go. Mm-hmm. Can't like what happens this direction or this direction, it's 100% different. So we're shooting like lenticular clouds over here that are just perfectly like at the top of the mountain and they're not moving, but then you look over here and you see the crazy red fire on the top of the mountain and everything. So it was just like one of those things where he was actually the one being more patient and trying to convince me to be patient. And it was a short trip, so I'm a big like 10-day minimum when I try to do photography trips.
Yeah.
Because you could probably pick any 10 days in a year and you could probably have almost every single type of weather in that time period.
True.
So like, and we were only going for 7 days, and like the first day and the last day were like, flies. So we really only had 5 or 6 days to shoot. So like, I was just being so impatient with like, oh my God, let's run over there. And he was like, oh man, like, let's just hang out. And like,
I see.
I should have listened more, but like, it was an expensive, lesson.
Right.
Because, and it was stressful. And like, I hope I didn't take away from his or anybody else's part of the trip, but it's like, okay, like why can you act in Philly one way, and then when you go on this trip, like you're a complete fucking moron? It's like,
I get it, dude. I mean, I get it. Like you're obviously a guy who gets super, super excited about stuff. Like you're obviously a super like passionate dude.
yeah.
And I hear you loud and clear, man. Like I am very much like that. I geek out about shit like hard.
Yeah.
And travel has always been one of my favorite things. We were talking the other day about like Africa.
Yeah.
I used to go there like all the time.
Ugh.
And so like when I show up to a place, like I mean I've gotten so good example. I won't get into like the specifics, but my wife and I, we went to Southeast Asia in 2017, and like I was just going through this heavy like I don't know, like I like had to try out like vlogging, which is when I look back at it now and I was like, oh, it just seems so lame. But at the time, this was sort of when I was like, I hadn't quite figured out like what I wanted to do in terms of like photography, videography, and whatnot. But I kind of wanted to try everything. So we're in Thailand, and I was like, I'm gonna do a ton of time lapse. I'm gonna take a ton of photos, but I want to document it and everything. And like I drove her fucking crazy, and
Right.
I don't. And it's like what you're saying. Like I was the problem. Like
Right.
I was way too intense about stuff. And ultimately, I think it was one of the biggest realizations for me that like, first of all, not everybody is going to think the way that you do when you go on a trip. If you have this preconceived idea of like, this is where my mind is at, and I don't think you necessarily realize how obsessed with it you are until that like argument happened. Like you think like I'm a reasonable guy, but you've got this thing where it's like, if I don't get my shit that I need, like, and so it made me realize that like, first of all, it is really hard to go on a vacation with people if you are kind of after photography and they are sort of like, I also want to go to this location, but I'm not really a photographer. Because even if they say like, yeah, dude, like that'd be fun. Like I'll get up with you and we'll go check out the sunset. It's never exactly what,
happening.
Because it's like they like, you obviously like, end up drinking a whole bunch, like a lot of the nights wherever you are.
Right.
And you tell yourself, like you're drinking too maybe, and you tell yourself, you're like, yeah, but I know that at this time in the morning or whatever the situation is, my plan is to do this. That is my number one priority. And, sure enough, that next morning, she's like, yeah, dude, like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And you're like, right, I'm doing this by myself now or whatever,
I've been lucky enough that like, or stubborn enough that I haven't gone on a trip with somebody who wasn't, I felt as balls to the wall as I was. So like every time, everywhere I've gone, especially like when I went to California with my buddy Jared, it was just like, he was more like, I don't give a shit. Just like drive.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go, just throw me in the passenger seat and we're gone. And I was like, all right, like I'm
that's
okay
cool.
with that. You know what I mean? And if you don't want to get out of the car, that's fine. Cause I think like most of that trip, we ended up sleeping in the back of the car anyway. Like we got an SUV. So my thing on trips is I don't rent rooms. I just sleep. I get the biggest, I get like a Suburban and I sleep in it.
We used to have like a mattress pad or something, right?
Yeah. So like I bring all my camping gear
mm-hmm.
and I end up just sleeping in the back of it because I'm like, well, I'm going to do Milky Way or I'm going to do sunrise and sunset. And then like, I don't want to have to go try and find a place to sleep then because then be up for, because it's spring/fall. So you're talking about like I don't know, 9 hours at night, maybe 10 hours of darkness before you got to be back up to go out. So I'm like, well, why am I going to waste my time and all this money? Just pay for the SUV, sleep in it. And if, you know, a cop knocks on your window, just move. Like,
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
come back from vacation 100 times more tired than I do when I go.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Although I'm probably not as hardcore as you with only renting a car and sleeping in it, but yeah, I feel you on that. I know what you mean.
It's fine for me, but when you explain it to somebody who doesn't understand photography, like they're like, what? Because I went to Hawaii for 3 weeks, just under 3 weeks. I was there for like 19 days. And people are like, wow, like, dude, you must make a ton of money. Like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, no. Like, it literally costs $4 to sleep on the beach.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, you slept on the beach? I'm like, yeah, I just sleep on the beach every night. I just get a permit for a week. And then like on certain islands, you can like free campgrounds, like national parks, all the campgrounds are free. So you just like, all right, well, I'm going to just hang out there then for the whole time, you know? So like, all it cost me was a rental car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cost nothing pretty
That's
much,
true.
you know, in comparison, you know, $4 a night for something. So, but you explain that to people and they're like, are you okay? Like, is everything cool? Like,
right.
So,
Well, people treat vacations very differently, you know, like you know, your motive, like it's almost not a vacation. It's almost like I'm going to this beautiful place that could very easily be a vacation, but I'm there, you know, to sort of do this thing that like all my, you know, YouTube tutorials and Googling and practice and everything that's gotten me better has sort of prepared me for this moment. So it's like,
right.
if I don't take it seriously, I'm throwing away the last 5 years of like learning.
Right. And putting all that effort into learning and like, oh, it's crazy. Like the places that I wish I could go back to, like now that I know everything that I know, I'm like, all right, well, I got to loop around and go to that place again. And all, you know, cause now I'm good.
Yeah. And just some of like the fundamental stuff that maybe like you didn't know at a particular time, like just stupid things like why did I focus there? Like why the fuck did I focus on that stupid rock? Or, you know, or whatever it is. Like how the fuck could I have done that? Or at least why didn't I focus stack? It's not that hard. Turn it, get and turn it and get and turn it, get there. Good. Like that's all I had to do. I
was in Mount Hood and I luckily I left I stayed actually at a hotel room in Portland. And I had a night where I totally missed. I literally was like, why did I not plan this night out? I have nowhere to go. Like I had like literal plans. I'm the worst planner. I'm the worst planner on the planet. Yeah. Like, I plan everything to a T sometimes. And I missed the night, but I like had places that I already had set up for the rest of the trip. So I couldn't go too far. I ended up in Mount Hood, at just Lost Lake. It was like booked for months out in advance. And I just ended up like pulling up at 6 o'clock in the morning. They were like, yeah, there's one person leaving today and you're the one person that gets that camping spot. Hey, but that was like 4 years ago. The Milky Way was right above Mount Hood and it was beautiful. And I look back at my photo, I'm like, what the hell is that? Right. Oh my God, it's horrible. So it's just like, man, if I knew half of what I knew right now. Yeah. I feel like that's such a thing for any kind of creative person is just that there's always the like, Jesus, I used to be terrible. And then what's ironic too is that you think as though you're on this like plateau since then. And then in 5 years, you're gonna have that same conversation about that person, you know? I find that is definitely the case, at least with me. And I also find that there is this, and maybe this isn't the case with you because you seem like a very like happy guy, but I seem to have these like, psychologically, these like feast and famine moments about how I feel about how good I am. Oh, dude. I'll do something. I am the fucking best. Like I'm so good. Oh my God. And I'll be mad at like, why did this photo do well on the internet and all the dumb, stupid shit we inevitably beat ourselves up about. Right. You know, but I'll feel great about whatever it is.
And then, you know, like you sort of get over it, that you know, wave goes away or something, and then a month goes by or something, and you're just super down on yourself.
Yeah.
And you're just like, God, like I'm never gonna do anything that great, and like I'm okay.
Hey, I'm not immune to it. That's literally, I am an emotional person, not like crying emotional. I am like on cloud 9, or I'm the worst photographer on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like, yeah, I mean, that's okay. Like I'm out taking pictures and I'm like, yo, this is the best day I've ever had taking photography. And then like other days, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is fucking stupid. Why am I out doing this right now? Like,
Right.
oh, it's like when a sunrise doesn't happen, when I'm like, oh, today's the day. And
Yep.
and I'm like, why the fuck did I just waste an hour and a half of my morning
Yep.
now to do? Cause sunrise, I'm there an hour before.
Mm-hmm.
Questions asked. Like I'm in my spot, my thing is set up. So it's before even any inkling of colors in the sky.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, here comes the next hour. Like, and you're like, where is it? All right. And then when it doesn't happen, I'm like, man, why the hell did I do this? You know,
Yeah.
it's the worst. It's the worst.
Time to go to work.
Yeah, literally. You know, when I went up for that New York City shot, I don't know if you saw that one with the crescent moon.
I might have. It was like a 600 mil, like one.
Yeah,
of those.
it was from 14 miles away.
Okay, I think I may have seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I drove up. You know, there's no clouds anywhere. And then all of a sudden, like as the color is starting to come up and the moon's starting, you know, we're like, all right, 10 minutes till the moon. All of a sudden you see this like cloud line start to rise in the background behind like, no, that's not how clouds move. Why is it? I just drove, like literally left my house at 3:00 in the morning to go take a picture at 6 to drive all the way back and go to work.
Oh, of a moonshot. It wasn't like you were just looking for a landscape or something.
No,
like
yeah,
like
it was a
pano.
specific
Like,
moonshot.
I need that. Yeah.
Yes. And like it ended up being a cool like landscape shot, but it was supposed to be the crescent behind the World Trade Center. But that cloud line literally went right to the top of the building and it just stayed there. And then the moon came out over top of it. And what happened 10 minutes later? The clouds were gone. It's like, you're kidding me.
The troll cloud.
And like, so I don't tell so I would say like 97% of people at my job have no idea I do photography.
Really?
I
so
do.
You just you walk in and just put your game face on and like, how was your morning? It was good. And then that's it.
So like there are a few people who I've worked with for years. And like, I guess now because like if people have your phone number, Instagram kind of like recommends them to people.
True. Yeah,
so like that's how I've been found out by a couple people. And like
it's brutal, yeah.
I'll walk in on mornings like that and they'll be like, are you kidding me right now? I'm like, what? They're like, you've been up for like 7 hours. I'm like, yeah, well, now I gotta go do my job. Like,
right.
You know, it's like
it's
the way it's gotta be.
So why would you rather keep it from people? Do you feel like I don't need the sort of corporate-y people knowing that I have this other obsession? Is it like that?
I am so weird. I'm probably the weirdest person you'll ever meet. Like
I know some weirdos, man.
Right?
But maybe.
I just have some weird things that like I really enjoy a compartmentalized life.
Uh-huh.
So when it comes to at my work, no one knows my nickname's JJ. Except for the people that know my Instagram. So
right.
Someone calls me John, which is my actual name.
Right.
So like they don't even know I have a nickname. And it's just because like when I go to work, it's nice to show up at work and be like, all right, here's what I got to do for the day. And do that. And then second, like if I have a really bad day at work and I walk out of that life, the second I walk out of those doors, the next thing that like can cheer me up is just been cut. It's like you've cut your day and now it's like, yo, man, I mean, the sun, you know, those clouds are looking really good. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to shoot a sunset tonight. And then your whole life can be even better. And then when you go to work the next day, you don't hear like, hey, man, that sunset happened last night. How did you run out and go and get it? And it's like, if that person pissed me off the day before, I don't really necessarily want to be like
Yeah.
up about a sunrise or a sunset.
Right. Don't you talk to me about that sunset?
Yeah. Fuck you. I saw it was red. I missed it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird to me because I just want to, I just kind of like the idea of like going to work and doing what I got to do. Everybody knows I do 8 hours. I mean, obviously if something's going on, but I'm never going to volunteer for that 1 minute after 8 hours.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. I do my job. I'm focused. I'm laser focused on what I need to do. I joke around. I'm an ass. It's just who I am as a person. But that 1 minute after 8 hours comes and I'm done.
Yeah.
And like I could have the worst day at work and then have a great rest of the day because I immediately shut it off when I leave there and I go and do, like I can go out and do photography and I don't have to like call somebody from work and be like, hey, do you want to go out and shoot? I have a whole different set of people that I hang out with that like I can just go and just like clear my brain space.
Yeah. I've always had trouble with that, to be honest with you. I'm not, in fact, I quit my like corporate job like a couple of years ago. And I'm not saying that was the reason. It was a whole bunch of things.
Right.
But I was never very good with sort of like, at work, I'm going to be this person. So, and then when I leave, I'm going to be the person that I know I am.
Right.
Or whatever that was. It really like weighed on me for years. And I, hey, it's like maybe, well, you're a pussy or whatever, like that's possible. But, like, I don't know. It weighed on me so hard, this idea that like here, I really have to act like I'm this person and I'm not.
Right.
And it was, I don't know, it was just over a period of time. It really, really started to bother me to the point where it really depressed me. And I just couldn't see me, doing anything where I didn't feel like I actually want to do this. And I cut it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the same person per se. I'm still loud. I'm still like, people see me walking and they're like, oh great. Like what's going on now? What kind of shit are you about to start just being a dumbass? But like, it's just nice to be able to like shut that down. I don't know. It's a strange, I don't know how I do it, to be completely honest, because I talk to everybody for like 15 fucking hours all the time. I don't ever shut up. Like I stop talking. So it's like, it's weird that like I can go to work and like have a specific task and do that and still be the same person essentially. And then like switch off like work and go straight into photography and just start like, completely shutting my day down. It's just on it, at other jobs I tried to be, oh yeah, this is what I do. Like, hey, maybe people will like it. And like people, we'll have something to talk about or, something in common. And it never worked. It never, it just didn't make sense. So then when I started like shutting it down and it worked. So I was like, all right, I guess this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a good way to, it's a good way to be. I mean, I can see how, like my wife's really good at that. She's really good at sort of compartmentalizing these different areas and just being like, this is this thing. And that's how I treat that. And like, when I'm done, it's just out. And like with me, it's like everything just melds together all the time.
Right.
It like carries over into other shit. And it's like, and it's just not, it's not good. So I'm aware of it. So there's that, I could be completely unaware and I'd be a fucking criminal or something by now.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, what's your backlog of stuff right now? I mean, do you have anything that you can be working on during all this?
Oh my God. I have so much. Like I have so much so I just did a little bit of an editing session. So I went up to Cherry Springs.
Okay.
I did that the night before Jersey shut down. So that was like the beginning of March. So it was about a month ago. Because Jersey put it in and I was like, yo, it's supposed to be clear. So I was like, I got a new Sigma 21.
Okay, the 1.8, yeah. Or because you switched to Sony, right? We were
I
talking
switched
about
to
that.
Sony. Yeah. So like, I gotta use this. So I drove all the way up to Cherry Springs. It was like 5 degrees out. It was horrendous, so cold. But I got like 2 or 3 really nice photos from up there. I've already edited them. I kind of want to sit on them though to kind of make sure that when I go back to them in a week or 2 or 3, that I'm like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you're always in a mindset of where you are, and then, you know, a couple weeks later, you're like, why the hell did I do that at 3,500 Kelvin? You know what I mean? Like, that's easy, 5,000 Kelvin shot. Like, why?
Right.
That's my thing. For me, I usually like my edits. I don't like my colors.
Interesting.
'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so blue. Where, like, I have stuff from Canada. I have 3 photos from Canada that I love, but I feel like I killed the color scheme of them. So I have to go back and re-edit those, but that's on the back burner.
It's really hard to be objective when you've been editing or looking at a photo for such a long time.
Right.
It's like you get to this point where you're like, I have no idea if this is good right now.
Right.
I had this period where I was like, okay, I'll just add that and I'm going to subtract that and I'm going to do that and then I'll blend this and okay, like I see the goalpost. And then you start just sort of doing shit just because it's there or something.
Right.
And then you're just like, I don't even know if this is good.
Right. So I've got a lot of that. I've got some owls that are on back order. I've got like 3 or 4 cityscapes that are on back. I actually just stopped at I drove past the Japanese house in Philly.
Oh, the Shofusa?
Yeah, Shofusa. Yeah, right.
Something like that.
And because it had all the all the trees blooming.
Right.
So I literally just stopped in the road and I was like, boop, boop, and then
That's cool.
I'm going. So I've got some of that stuff, but like, I've got not too much, but there's a lot of stuff I go back and edit that I've got backlogged on, and I'm worse with that, especially because you put shit on your phone and it looks 100% different.
Right. Yeah. Do you color calibrate your monitor? Have you done all that kind of stuff?
So I do, but I was reading somewhere that actually if you edit in like complete darkness, that you don't need to color calibrate your monitor. At least the monitor that I have.
Really?
So the monitor that I have is more than my computer was.
Uh-huh.
I'm an idiot. So I noticed like if I was sitting here and I'd edit something, it looked one way. And like sometimes, you get into those really long you're like down here like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then like you export it and you look at it the next day and you're like, man, that is like so dark. So
Right.
I got a monitor that no matter which way you look at it, it's always the same.
Right.
And when I was reading more about it, it was saying that if you just literally work in a pitch black room and you don't have any lights casting any kind of colors to the monitor, then you don't really have to worry about it. But you do, I have to admit, I just looked like a month ago, and everything on my computer monitor and everything that printed was what it was supposed to be.
That's good. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I used to print and like things would come out so badly.
Yeah.
Man, that is not what I was expecting. Like that looks so green compared to what it was supposed to be. Like the tint.
Yeah.
So
it's printing is kind of stressful because like, doesn't it feel like, you get to these milestones in terms of like learning stuff or feeling like, hey, I'm actually like pretty good at this now or,
right.
Whatever. And so then one day as everyone, if it keeps up with this for like multiple years, one day you're like, hey, like my mother or whatever, like says she wants a print for me. And you're like, oh,
right.
I'll look into that, and then you realize that like, if photography were like a bachelor's degree, then printing is like a master's degree and you're just like, oh my God,
100%.
This is another 4 years of learning about this shit.
So when I did my book, I actually had to re-edit all of the photos because they give you the profile based on the color, based on the paper you're printing on.
Right.
So then you have to like take in Photoshop or in Lightroom, you have to have the photo of what it is, and then with the profile
and then try to get them.
Right. You have to try to make this one look like this one.
Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. Hold on, I gotta show you this real quick. I literally printed out 150 3x5s just to see how they printed,
right?
How they looked next to each other.
Yeah.
Like literally, because when you opened up the page, I mean, if you have like something like this, you know, next to something like this, like they don't go together.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks odd.
You know what I mean? So you have to kind of sit there and you kind of be like, oh, okay, this one's blue and this one's blue. And they, okay, like I can put these side by side. And like people don't think about that when you're printing. You're like, holy mackerel, like what it like. It's such, it took me 2.5 weeks to nail it down to the photos that I wanted. And then I had to take some out and put some in based on the colors.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, those two can't go next to each other. Like, yeah. Do that. So
I guess it's, you know, if you think about it, it's like the same logic as, you know, the people that really have the best, you know, Instagram feeds is like, they seem to really be particular about,
right,
you know, where to stack everything. The guy I did the podcast with recently, that guy Woos that I was telling you about, we were talking about Michael Shainbloom and how it's just like, dude, just everything that guy does is fucking amazing. Like
you want to hear you want to hear this circle I was a part of up at Plus? So I'm with Nick, and Nick has done the Photo Pills camp.
Okay. Oh no shit! He went to that.
Yeah, so he went to it. So it's him and I. Michael Shainbloom is to my right. The two people from Photo Pills are on my left.
Raphael, I think is his name.
Yeah, Raphael.
Yeah.
Elia Lacardi.
Okay.
Is across, and then Joshua Crisps is across from there.
Right.
Why am I here? Like,
yeah.
The amount, like, they're letting me talk and they're asking me questions. Like,
right.
They shouldn't be doing that. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the coolest circle ever being a part. But you sit there and like Michael Shainbloom, like when you hear like his thought process and how he does stuff, it is like, yeah, I've got things to work on. Like his mindset and how he does his stuff and like what he's doing. You're like, man, like this guy's really got this. Like he's got it locked down. Same with Joshua Crisp. Like he's got such a process of how they do things and like, oh, it's so cool, man.
And consistent and repeatable as well, which is very odd because every time I try to go, this will be my thing. It's like, it works for like the first image. And then the second one, I'm like, this doesn't work at all. Like what?
Yeah. That's why I hate presets.
Oh yeah. I can't. I do presets for like, it's like smaller, like gigs that I'll get like paid, like if like real estate shoots, I'll do some presets.
But you're shooting in the same type of location for the whole
and realtors tend to want a certain look, like they want everything. You know, it's almost like real estate is kind of akin to like a lot of like wedding work where it's like just blow out every highlight, just white, you know, and then they kind of want it that way, you know.
Yeah. But like people like they'll do landscapes and they'll like put a preset on. I'm like, what are you doing right now? Like, are you?
Yeah. I don't get that. The one thing that I have seen, I have picked up on this is that a lot of even like the really, really greats, like the big, you know, the Shainblooms and the Mind's Eyes, and I don't know if Elia Lacardi does this. He doesn't seem like a guy that would do this, but a lot of those guys will, you know, they go through all their editing process and then they'll still kind of put like a LUT or like a color grade or something like at the end. I see them do a lot of that where they'll get to a point and I maybe what it is the type of thing where they wouldn't, I don't know this for a fact or anything, but I assume that maybe it's the type of thing where maybe they save a file up to a certain point and they say, this is what I'm printing, but maybe for my sort of like online presence where you to go back to the sort of, what do I want the grid to look like?
Right,
maybe
right.
that's the point where they add that color grade and they go, yeah, everything that he does has a little bit of whatever, magenta or purple.
Right.
Or whatever else is stupidly like the lifted blacks thing that's like every fucking person does.
Oh
you know?
my God. I kill the shadows in a lot of my photos.
Mhm.
Because it's just, I don't know, it's just the way I do it. But like, yeah, dude, oh my God, everybody is just like up on the black slider all the time.
Yeah, it's especially a street photography thing. It's like,
Yes.
if there's a person in your photo that's got like a unique look about them, or they, they're not doing a traditional headshot, they've just some, that, or it's like it's a curves like black, like yeep, and like done, and like that's and it's funny too, because like it does kind of look good. It's like, I make fun of it, but I'm also like, that's a cool look. It does look good.
That's funny.
I don't know, dude. Shane Bloom is probably going to do the podcast with me. Believe it or not.
No, are you kidding me? That is awesome.
I mean, it's not 100% confirmed, but like I told you before, man. Like I'm just like, I'm throwing darts at people, And I think there's some people where I'm like, and again, like everyone that I'm asking, even non-photographers, or people, I'm like, this is going to be a good one. Like this person, we're going to be able to riff and talk.
Right.
But some of the people, it's like, I'm just going to reach out and who knows. And it's like the amount of responses that I'm getting back from people that, again, I have zero business like interviewing some of these people.
Right.
Is like amazing. I mean, it's like, it's going back to like corporate, when I used to work in sales, and it was like, you try so hard, and you're lucky if you get like 1% back to be like, yeah, Adam, like, let's talk. And in this case, it's like, I've got, Shane Bloom, who was just like, yeah, man, like, that sounds like fun. Sure. And I was like, he's like, shoot me an email. I'm like,
he literally is. That's why I was saying, like, he's literally one of the nicest people. Like, he was intrigued on what I was saying.
Really?
Why is it like he's asking me questions?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm in this circle of like, if you ask like a legit photographer who these people are, they probably know who they are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I'm sitting in a circle talking to them, and they're acting like, everybody knows everybody. And I'm like, man, like it was cool. Like that's how cool of people that they were. And I was like, all right, Elijah, I'm going to be a little bit of a nerd. I need a picture with you.
Right. That's funny.
You don't get to meet like one of the best photographers in the world, every other day.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of the Javits Center, in the middle of the whole thing going on, and not a single person stopped and like said anything.
That's so weird.
Right?
What is that? Is that just like photographers are kind of generally antisocial people? Because that is a sort of a theory that I have, that there's a lot of like.
I think they are. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if people actually know, like, who they are, but you may not know. Like, I don't ever post who I am on my Instagram.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know who it is behind the camera. They'll probably, if you show them like, oh, hey, this is work I did, they're like, oh my God, I've seen that a million times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I just think they don't know who they physically are, but like if you show them their work, they're like, oh my God, yeah, that guy's amazing. Oh, that's you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And getting back to the whole like time blending thing, I think Elia Liccardi might be like the OG landscape time blending guy.
100%. He does it so well that you don't even realize that it's a time blend. And that's when you know you've done it.
Exactly.
And when you can not sit there and be like, wow, this looks like awfully bright for everything, that's the thing. That's his Hall of Fame when it comes to that. And you know what? The next guy will do something a little bit different, and it'll be his Hall of Fame, and then everybody will kind of start trending that way. I feel like it's weird though. I feel like nobody does time blends. I feel like everybody goes out.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I think that's why, because people want to be able to just take their shot and they just think it will go, viral. And I guess fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes it still does. Like sometimes people just, I don't know, they just hustle their dicks off on social media or something, or they're just that type of person where they can make like a mediocre photo into like this Hall of Fame level thing. So it does happen sometimes, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's like, dude, you're not gonna I don't think that you're going to really get other people that know what they're talking about to sort of go, dude, like sincerely nice job. Like you're not going to get a lot of those type of accolades unless you really do work your ass off. And time blend is one of those things where, yeah, you're going to have to stand there for 2 fucking hours.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to edit for a while, you know?
Right.
And if you get a little chromatic aberration, or if you're not paying attention to something, or just a little bit like, you know, you overexpose the clouds and then you brought the highlights down and that stupid like moldy gray thing that everybody does. It's like a person who knows what they're talking about is going to go, nice try, but you still miss something.
Right. You did it right. It's a little off. Like you did the right thing. You just didn't do it the right way.
Yeah.
And I just did the Ben Franklin Bridge the other day, and I was like, finally, I've gotten my photo. I did my time blend. I did everything I needed to. And no shit did I move my tripod. Enough that I can't get it back to fit.
You try to Photoshop and just to get it to align a little bit better?
I can't get it to align.
Just
can't get it. And I'm like, it's been 3 times now that I've done that. I'm like, man, you got to be kidding me.
You know, on the other hand, though, like to what we were talking about earlier, like some of those Photoshop masters, I bet that like there's probably a video out there where and it would take a while,
right?
Probably something that you're not doing that you probably could do, and it would just all would be right in the world if you knew that one thing.
Right, I totally agree, and I bet you if I send it over to Chris, he'd be like, bloop, bloop, bloop. All right, yeah, man, like, what else do you want to know?
Right. I'll just ESP into your laptop and it'll just know how to align.
I'll share my screen with him and he can just be like, all right, there you go, man. Have a nice day.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, no way. I couldn't do it.
Well, that's cool that Shane Bloom's a nice guy. I mean, he must be, because, you know, he didn't like, you know, you'd sort of expect a guy like that when I ask him if you want to be on my podcast to sort of say something like, well, how many subscribers do you have? You know, what's the view count?
Oh.
Like, what can I expect? And, you know, you just go, I like nobody. I'm hoping that maybe in a couple of months it'll pick up steam. But as of right now, like, this is just the fun thing. And I'd like to talk to you anyway.
That to me, like, separate someone who's actually a good person and has good work or like has a lot of followers because they have good work versus someone who like is lame. And I'm going to call them lame straight up, because like, if that's the first thing that you're like worried about, you're not a photographer. You're a social media person. And I can't tell you how many times like people message me. I'll be like, yo man, yeah, thanks. You know, that was fun. It was so cool. I reply to every message that I get. 99.9%. There's some really out there. But and people are like, oh, I didn't think that you would like answer me when I asked you about this. I'm like, you asked me a question about photography. I'm going to answer you. Like, man, you don't understand. There's like people out there with as many followers as you do, and they never answer me. Like, if somebody's got 10,000 followers and they're not answering you, like, they have no idea what internet fame is. Like, 10,000.
There's so much I would love to say right now, but it's just not a good idea. But yes, man, I mean, it's just because it's like some of the people that I've reached out to, like, again, Shane Bloom, and like, do you know Colby Brown?
Mm-mm.
Colby Brown, he's got a pretty significant following. It's not, I don't think it's quite as much as like Shane Bloom has, but he's been a very, very big time photographer for a long time. So it's kind of one of those things where you love to think that like, oh, what's the follower count that equates to like success? And I think it's a lot more complicated than that.
Wow. I just looked him up. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You talk about like unique and original photos. Like he's and plus he does everything. He's wildlife. He does landscape.
He literally does everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
like, this is the kind of person I'm following him right now, obviously. But like, he's the kind of like photographer that like I kind of want to be. He's got bears. He's got Milky Way. He's got sunrises, sunsets, night, day, like everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Like it's incredible.
He's he really like actively kind of promotes that from his website, and just, you know, whenever he's on like a B&H, you know, guest video or something like that, like one of his things is this idea that like you don't necessarily have to funnel yourself into like this particular aspect of photography. because, hey, like I have, and I mean, like he's not just a guy who does stuff on Instagram. Like he works with big brands all the time.
Right.
And it's for a lot of different things. And it's kind of funny. I'll tell you the story in a minute, because I actually met him like last year, and it was like a kind of a bizarre circumstance. But he was telling me when I asked him, like, so how does some of these big commercial shoots that you get work? Like, do they sort of put out a bid to say, look, we're running this advertising campaign, and we're really looking for photos to do this, and like, you're on our short list of photographers, we want to talk to you? Like, is that how it works? Because I'm very far away from that world,
Right.
in terms of commercial shooting. And he was like, well, I'm fortunate enough to have gotten to this point where I actually pitch the idea to them, and I basically say, hey, there's this cool thing coming up in nature, or some, like, I don't even know, something that happens once a year in South Africa or whatever it is. And like, I want to go shoot it. So I had this idea. What if, like, you guys are promoting X and Y brand or something, or product? What if we tie it into that, and then we made it about what such and such? And then they go, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And he goes, cool, here's the budget I'm working with. You're going to need to do that. You got to send me there. And they go, okay.
No shit.
And that's how he makes money.
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
It's the dream. Yeah. It's might even be better than a National Geographic photographer, because the National
100%.
Geographic, they still say, go to Siberia. Like, you still,
Right.
you're still sort of the
So you're going to the Himalayas and you're looking for spotted leopards.
right.
And you're
Right.
gonna sit in that little hut for 6 months if that's how long it takes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh my God. That is the point of, like, you've made it. And then you have to, then the hard part is you got to hold on to it.
Right.
Still got to be relevant enough and produce, I guess, on that advertising to say, like, hey, like, this is the results I've gotten. You know, like, you have to perform. But wow.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure very stressful. I'm sure if you're one of those people that gets a viral video or a viral time lapse or a viral landscape shot or whatever, then there is this expectation of, like, well, you need to do that. And the truth is, like, if you feel like you're kind of more of an average photographer, and sometimes you just take a really good shot, like, hey, it's like the conditions worked out, right place, right time, whatever.
Right.
That has to be pretty stressful to think, like, oh man, I've got to produce that every time I do something.
Oh, that's incredible. I could only imagine like having to do something like that.
Yeah. Oh man, I was geeking out so hard. So actually, the story of when I met him, it's pretty funny, and I cannot wait to tell him when he goes on this podcast, because there's like, so certain people, I'm like, there's this funny thing, and I'm like, oh, like, that's the thing that I have to ask them about, or like, remember that time you did the thing? Like, what was that all about?
Right.
So my thing with Colby Brown was, it's really like one of those small world stories. So last summer, we go up to Maine every year. My wife's family, like, they, everyone in their family, like, has a house up there, and it's near, where Booth Bay is?
Mm-hmm.
Not too far from Acadia.
Yep.
So, like, they have a place in Booth Bay, and we go up there, and it's like, it's not exactly Booth Bay. It's like this little island, and it's like this sleepy little town. And I know you love Maine, because you're always talking about it. I love it there. It's so great, man. It's like just this cool, eerie Stephen King, kind of place. It's just awesome.
Right.
So anyway, we're walking around one day, and I've got my camera in my hand, and this guy walks by, and I have this moment where, like, I think that was Colby Brown. Like, I've seen his face on Instagram stories and stuff, and I'm like, pretty sure he's sort of a unique looking guy. And I'm like, I think that might have been him. And I'm just kind of standing there, and I'm like, let me just make sure, and I don't have to walk up to this guy like some asshole and just like, Colby, and he's just like,
yeah.
Like, what? So sure enough, I'm like, that's definitely him. So he's in, like, he comes out of, like, the ice cream store or whatever, and I just kind of walk up to him. I'm like, Colby Brown, right? And I'm sorry, no, I'm mistelling the story. So I try to find him.
Okay.
I try to find him, and I can't find him. I like missed him, right? So I sent him a message on Instagram, and I was like, hey, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but, like, do you happen to be in Booth Bay Harbor, Maine right now? Because I am, and I could have sworn I just saw you. So sure enough, he gets back. He's like, oh yeah, like that was me. Like, I am here.
No shit.
And so, it's one of these things where it's like, you don't want to say too much because you're just gonna be a weirdo. You're gonna just
Right,
like,
right.
Whatever, you know. But like, you know, you wanna, it's like, be my friend, please. So long story short, I end up mentioning that, like, oh well, we're on Capitol Island, which is like this little, you know, like 100 people live there or something. And he's like, I'm on Capitol Island too, and I'm just like, what? And he says, and he's like, oh yeah, like my family actually owns like the inn. So there's this one like big house that's kind of in the middle of the island, and it's just called the Island Inn, I think. And it's been around for like 100 years or whatever. And so my wife, who's like, you know, grew up in this area, I don't think she'd ever actually been in the inn, but like everyone knew about it. Like everyone knows everyone. And so she was kind of surprised that she actually didn't know him. Like she was almost like, I'm surprised like our families don't, you know each other or something.
Right.
You know, it's a very like New Englandy, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, so he says like, oh, why don't you, you know, come by tomorrow afternoon or whatever. And we're like, you're like, oh, okay. So Katie says to me, like, we're like, okay, let's go. And I bring her with me to, I don't know, make me look like less of a psycho or something. Look, I'm married. I'm not some weirdo.
I have a girl.
Right. You know, like I'm not gonna, it's not a bomb, you know, under my clothes.
Right.
So Katie assumes that the inn is going to be this thing where you just walk in and there's like all these rooms, you know, like an inn, and there's going to be like a bunch of rooms, and maybe there's like a central area with like a kitchen or something. So we walk in, and like kind of as we're walking in, we see these two other people, which turned out to be like his family members. I think one of them might have been his wife and like somebody else, and apparently there was like 8 of them all staying there because they own it. So they say something to us like, oh, like, would you like to come, you know, see it or something? And meanwhile, in my head, I'm like, well, I'm already going to see, you know, Colby Brown. He invited me over here anyway. So we sort of like, yeah, whatever. Like, we're not really like accepting their invite. We're kind of like, I'm going to walk in anyway.
Right.
So we walk in. It's not an inn anymore. It's just a house. So basically, I just like walked into this person's house and like, and
oh
yeah. So like we're in there, and like after a few seconds go by, I'm like looking over at my wife, and I'm like, dude, we just like walked into her house, and you know she's just thinking like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like you didn't say like yes, you just like walked into my hat, like and now like it wasn't like she like said something and then we kind of detoured over to his house. It's like we were going straight into his house when we like saw her in the last like 10 steps. You know, so
that is so funny,
dude. We must look so weird. And then like, so we're in their house, and Colby's like not there, and it was like, you know, 20 seconds or something go by, and then he kind of walks in, and I was like, oh, like, hey, Colby, and then she goes like, oh, like you guys know each other? So she was so confused,
right.
And it was like I couldn't like tell the whole story at that moment because it was like, you know, I was probably only there to talk to him for 10 seconds and be like, dude, hey, it's great to meet you. Like, what are you working on these days or whatever? So I couldn't like backtrack and be like, by the way, you might think I'm a weirdo and here's what just happened. So ever since I met him, I hit him up on Instagram every once in a while and he'll respond and be like, you know, I always try to like, oh, hey, like you going to Maine anytime soon or what, you know, just with the littlest thing I can do to try to keep some kind of relationship. And so when he agreed to do the podcast, I was like, I cannot wait to drop this little
finally explain what happened.
Yeah. Like, by the way, just out of curiosity, does your wife think that I'm completely insane? Like, yeah, actually she does. All right.
You're the guy who walked into my house?
Yeah.
That's
exactly
funny.
So
I can say I've never walked into somebody's house like that. Like,
I don't think I have either, you know.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's funny, like as much as I'm looking forward to chatting with him about like, you know, whatever, all the cliche questions that one would have for a guy like that, you know, the number one question to me is like, hey, do you remember this little thing that happened?
Right. Do you remember an idiot and walked into your house? Like,
yeah.
That's funny.
Exactly. I should try to message I don't think Elia Licardi is very active on social media, so he may be a little bit tougher to.
I think he has a manager that actually does it too. So I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that the stuff. I think his wife actually does a lot of that. She's a photographer too, actually.
That's right.
Good. She's
she does those photo pills camps as well, doesn't she?
yeah. Yeah. So that's Nick was telling me that like the one night he's out shooting star trails and he's sitting right next to Michael Shainblum for 3 hours, just shooting the shit, talking about stuff. I'm like, man, that's got to be awesome.
That is pretty sweet.
I wish I had the money to be able to do one of those camps, but like, oh man, that would be so cool to just sit there and be like, oh yeah, I'm talking to this dude today. You know, it's like
right.
somebody.
There's a big difference, I think, from like, buying the tutorial or doing like the one-on-one Skype, workshop probably than it is to just sort of like, you're telling me things and I can like eat and I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna come back and I thought of a new question to ask you. Like, I think that's probably a totally different experience.
Oh, I can only imagine. Like, so I've worked with Nick and I have worked with photo pills for like workshops that they did up in Hoboken.
Okay.
But yeah, like the workshops they put together, it's so photo pills are so intricate.
Yeah.
Many things that are going on at once. Like I can pretty much use it and nail anything down, but like there are so many things I don't even know on the app right now. It's always improving too. So, one day.
Yeah, it is super, super thorough and even like a little bit intimidating sometimes. It's almost photo pills is kind of like the photographer's app version of like, when you look at when you're like, hey, I hear that Lightroom is limited. Let me just open Photoshop real quick. And you're just like, oh God, like, it is so much. Photoshop is a little bit like that. It's just so much more, and it has so much more than any other app that I've ever messed around with.
Oh, it's got all of it all in one too. Mm-hmm. And like when there's meteor showers, they pop up in there. Yep. Eclipses pop up in there, and it's absolutely incredible. Like the amount of things that they've integrated into one app. The moon, sun. Like, oh, I love it.
And they respond fast, like you said. I mean, there may be some like celestial event that is happening in like 3 days, and like they're right there, and like they post the announcement about it, and we've got you covered. And it's like, man, it seems like they run a pretty tight ship.
I completely jacked up 2 rises in a row, and it was I ended up I was wrong, but I messaged him and I was like, hey, I don't know why, but like this didn't line up. It doesn't make sense. So he's like, he messaged me back 20 minutes later, Raph. He was like, yo, send me the plan. I'm going to get you set up and I'm going to go through it and, we'll work on it. And like, he sent it back to me. He was like, here, upload this plan. This is what you wanted to do. And I was like, oh, yeah, wow. Makes sense. 45 minutes total from back and forth going. And he was like, yeah, he goes, you messed up this portion and this portion. And, in photo pills, when you're talking about moon lineups, I was 20 feet off on the one pin and 20 feet off on the other pin. So that's 40 total.
Oh yeah. It's not going to happen. Yeah.
You're all over the place. Right. Yeah. So it was just the maps in photo pills. Unfortunately, there aren't better maps because they use, it's unfortunate that that's what it is. And it ended up being like, the elevation was wrong and it was just a little bit off. And then that same thing with the other one. And but he was like, all right, but yeah, check this. And then, that's what you can do because.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that guy, there's no way that guy sleeps if he's that responsive.
Bilingual, he's teaching everything in 2 languages. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing?
I know. Travels a lot, apparently. I wonder, like, how did he even get started, right? Because is he even a photographer? Like, it doesn't seem like he is.
No, and I forget what it was. So there's 2 of them. There's 2 guys that started and run photo pills.
Right.
And, I think Raph is more of like the app guy.
Right.
And they saw an opportunity and they knew that they could do it better than like, I don't know if you know the Photographer's Empress.
Yep.
That one you put the pin and it tells you angles. Mm-hmm. And that's actually how I did my first ever moonshot.
Yeah.
With the Statue of Liberty. And that ended up pretty fucking viral.
Yeah.
But I used the Photographer's Empress for that. And then years later I come back because photo pills pretty much does the whole freaking thing for you. Like now, if you go to try to shoot the moon with the Statue of Liberty, you're with 200 other people.
Right. And that could very well be a reason why, that
no
happens.
doubt in my mind that it is. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that that's the reason why that moon photography has blown up because of photo pills. No doubt.
Yeah. That and the availability of the 150 to 600s, which are like, pretty cheap. I'm sure that
for
helps
like
too.
$800 now,
Yeah.
dude, $700. And it's
I
like,
know.
Truthfully, I'm looking out for another one.
Another 150 to 6.
Yeah, I want to get another one because I want to do like the super tight, but I also want to do like a little bit wider.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that if I'm not perfect on my super tight, I can still have the wider one.
Right.
And still get something. So yeah, I want to run that setup.
Well, don't forget too, switching over to the A7R3, like, you could probably go to like 400 mil and like still have 2 separate shots if you wanted to. Because it's got like 42 megapixels.
Well, I'm only on the regular A7 III. I don't have the R.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then you still need the reach.
If I had waited like 2 months, the R had come way down in price.
Right.
It's just unfortunate timing that I ended up switching over, but
yeah, I just got I've told you this before. I made the same switch. I went, or though you were Canon, right?
Canon.
Even
though I'm wearing a freaking Nikon D series hat.
Get that ambassadorship if this if this thing gets some steam.
Yeah, the camera I've never used.
Right. Hey, dude, I'll take a Z. I'll try one out. They're probably awesome.
Yeah, they're great.
So like I went from Nikon to Sony as well. And my sort of way that I've been doing things as far as like selling my old gear and replacing that with the new gear and everything is like I really try to be very like don't go spending too much money, like wait until you've sold whatever gear and then replace it with the new stuff. So I'm like trying to be responsible. I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, but nobody's perfect when they've got the gear acquisition syndrome. But so anyway, like I basically like right before the stupid coronavirus and quarantine and everything is like I got the A7R3 and I got like an ultra wide. I think I picked up the Tamron ultra wide just because I was like I love how this thing weighs like nothing.
Right.
It's like it's like a weird focal length. It's like 17 to 28 or something bizarre.
Okay.
They're 2.8, and then I got a Sigma 24 to 70, which is a beast. But I don't. That's it. I have no other like long things because as soon as the like pandemic happened, it was like good luck selling any of your shit.
Anything, right?
Like no one's buying. And like you'd look on eBay and it was like these things are going for like 2/3 of what they usually sell for. And I'm like, nah, I'm not dealing with that. Like I'm getting my money's worth. And the way I justify it is like I can't do anything anyway right now. So it's not like I'm not super butthurt that I don't have everything I need.
Right. I really want that Sony 200 to 600.
Yeah, that thing looks pretty sweet.
That's a nice lens, but oh my God, I'm like looking at it. I'm like, how many mortgage payments is that?
Right. Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
Dude, something about having the zooms that are white. I don't know what it is. It's like I'm just kind of like, ooh, it's the white one.
Dude, they totally went Canon on that. Because that was all the super zooms for Canon were all white for years. I don't know if I think they still are actually. I think they are.
Yeah.
They totally jumped on that bandwagon.
Oh yeah. Well, even going back to like the 7200, I remember even that I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
What is that?
I dropped a 70 to 200 in the ocean.
Oof. Dunzo?
I never got it back. I dropped.
Like you didn't even acquire it from the ocean.
Right. It was just.
Oh man.
Yeah. I had a bag on and it had a side pocket, and I turned really fast and boom. All I heard was like, you just heard like a, psh, and I was like, what the hell was that? And then like I felt my bag. I was like, this kind of feels light.
This weighs like maybe about 5 pounds lighter.
Yeah, right? And I looked, and I was in Rhode Island, and the coast is just like not high cliffs, but cliff with rocks.
Yeah.
And you see it sitting in between a whole bunch of rocks, and I was like, well, gotta go buy another one of those.
Damn.
That was
Was that a-
horrible.
Was that a 2.8 as well?
It was a 4.
It
Thank
was a
God.
4. Yeah. Yeah, it's like another $1,000 if that's a 2.8.
Right. I got the 2.8 afterward because I was like, you know what? Just do it, man. Just do it. You'll be all right. You'll
Yeah.
survive. So I ended up getting the 2.8 out of it. But yeah, I was like, oh boy, could you imagine?
Yeah. No, I've never had it. I have dropped a camera body before, and thankfully it was totally fine. And it was right in front of like a bunch of other photographers, and it was just like the worst. Like,
Oh, that's the worst feeling ever.
when you just look like a doofus.
When you do something really dumb and you're just like, yeah, if they had done this, I would have definitely been in my own head right now thinking.
Oh,
about
100%.
Yeah.
Like if they were me, I'd be shitting all over them right now. So I know they're shitting all over me.
Right. It's impossible not to. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in San Francisco, and I was out shooting with like 4 or 5 different people. And I think I walked up to like the, we were just leaving a hotel, and I walked up to the, I don't know, like whoever the hell you talk to, because I think I needed like an extra key. I like lost my key or something.
Okay.
And I like put my camera and lens like up on the like whatever marble countertop that the hotel had. And I don't know, it's just like, it wasn't up there enough. Somehow I just screwed it up. I can't believe I did. And then I like did something, I leaned over, and I just heard bang. And and my one friend kind of gave me this look like, you know, like, I want to laugh at you, but like, I know how much you're hurt right now.
Right. That,
And,
yeah.
It like dented the shit out of it, and it screwed up the, I had to get the screen replaced because it like left a big scratch on the screen, but it was okay. Somehow it was all right.
That's good. I know a guy who was out at a workshop in Maine shooting the Milky Way, and they were on a bridge with a river going underneath. And he set his camera up, and then he went down, and he came up, and he was like, over into the river.
Everything. Tripod and everything.
I guess he like didn't screw it onto the tripod, so he just put it there, let go, and it went bloop right over into the river. He was like, it was good. I forget what he got. I think he got an 850. He got something really nice.
Damn.
He definitely upgraded, and it was an older camera. So he was like, you know, I was pissed, but like not that pissed because I got to upgrade. He's like,
yeah,
trip because he didn't have anything to shoot with. But yeah, he dropped the body right off the freaking bridge right into the water.
I love that, man. Like, anytime that anything like that with gear or tech like ever fails in some way, you never go, I'll just go out and I'll get the exact same thing that I had before. Like, no one ever does that.
Never.
Whoa, have you seen the prices on the new one? It's like no one ever does the rational, smart financial thing.
I know.
What if I just got something that was 3 times as good?
Because you're like, you know what? I'm so pissed. I deserve this. I'm just going to do it.
Right.
You know, it'll make me feel so much better about everything that just happened.
Yeah, exactly. Self-care, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
As they say, I'm gonna take some me time.
Yeah. That's
so dude, what's the future looking like? I mean, I would imagine pretty uncertain at the moment, but do you have any like local stuff planned out, like when things aren't the end of the world?
So the only things that I have planned, so I have decided, so I was saying earlier, I decided that I'm not flying this year. I decided in January, I said, you know, I got a puppy. We're going and we're doing Milky Way whenever Milky Way is available.
Yep.
So I have I have vacation time at work. So basically what I'm going to do is, you know, this is actually kind of helping. I know it's not really helping in a good way, but for my photography wise, I'm just, whenever the Milky Way is good, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Once this quarantine is done. But I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot. I got West Virginia. I've got places in West Virginia for the last 3 years I've been trying to go to. But
whereabouts?
Like Spruce Knob area.
Okay.
So it's like upper eastern side, right on the border of Virginia.
Okay. So it's like that kind of Luray area, right? Or the Skyline Drive area?
Yeah, so it's like, so like when you're on the top of the mountains there, you're looking across and you can kind of like see the range where Skyline Drive's at.
I've seen some cool shots up there.
Yeah,
you can get fog and cloud inversions and stuff up there too. I
Yeah,
think.
so that's a nice place because it's, believe it or not, it's actually the darkest place on the East Coast, minus the upper coast of Maine, like the
Right.
upper area of Maine.
Yeah.
But like
Canada,
for the
man.
East Coast, it's
Yeah.
the darkest place. Like Cherry Springs is probably a really close second.
Right.
Max is probably a really close third. But you have a lot of like areas on the horizon where in West Virginia the mountains are so big and the towns are so tiny, like you can shoot the whole sky with that.
Oh yeah, it's a much better composition.
Yeah.
We were talking about this the other day, like Cherry Springs. Like
Yeah.
Cherry Springs is almost better to just show up and be like, I'm gonna chill here and just observe this because it's awesome.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, like trying to get good shots there is definitely, you're pretty limited.
I got a pretty good one the other night that I'm pretty happy with. It was my first, so I found a secret spot
Okay.
at Cherry
Of course.
Springs. It's down the road
Right.
because I'm a Google Earth nut, but it's right down the road and like there's this little like wooden bench and it's just overlooking all of like the rolling hills out in the foreground. And it's just the Milky Way across the
Right.
sky.
How far down the road is it exactly?
Yeah, right. It's actually down a dirt road, believe it or not.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, so it was like, the beginning of March and up there, I've been up there in March before and been in 1.5 feet of snow, the top of a mountain. But it was so warm in March and February that there was nothing. But I was like, what if I get down this dirt road and it's like puddle because all the whatever, it all melted and stayed in this area. And now that it's 5 degrees out, I'm going to be a sheet of ice. Like I'm going to be dirt road. It ended up being okay. But yeah, so I'm just going to go out and just shoot the Milky Way whenever it's possible. And then at the end of the year, whatever I have left over, I'm going to the upper Vermont, New Hampshire, pretty much Canadian border. And for however long I have left, I'm just following color back. I'm just going to have
end of the summer you're talking about?
end of fall. So
end
right
of
when the
fall.
colors start to change.
Right.
So once I see that like some places have hit peak, I'm just gonna, my boss is pretty cool. So I can kind of be like, hey, like I'm taking like 2 weeks off, say at the end of September, beginning of October sometime, but I don't know when.
Yeah.
Like, all right, whatever. Like as long as nothing's going on, as long as we don't have anything crazy going on, like by all means go. So I can kind of just be like, all right, well, check all the internet things where like, oh, peak is arriving in these areas. So then I can, because I don't know if you've ever done a fall foliage trip.
I haven't. I've been wanting to for a while, but I don't know. There always seems to be something else going on where I can't.
It's so hard. It is by far, I don't care, like shooting Milky Way, doing moon, like that's easy because you have a location and you're just waiting for like other things to happen. You can go to an area and it's all green and then go past that mountain range into the next one and it is gorgeous.
Yeah, that's weird.
It is so centralized. Like if you go too early, it's so localized. Like one of the best fall photos I've ever gotten in my entire life. We were driving, me and Vic from New York. Him and I are just driving and we're going and there's nothing. It's all green. And I looked over my shoulder and it was just like you saw a little color.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't know. Like, let's just fucking go. Like, we haven't seen anything. Let's just go. We're just in circles looking for color. And we went over this bridge and it was just anywhere you looked was all color. But like when you went back over the ridge, everything was green. That's
so weird.
Like it made no sense. And like I've been to upstate New York where you drive through areas like hours long where it's just it's past, so everything's empty, like all bare. And then you finally find the pocket that you're looking for.
There's got to be some reason for that. It's got to be something about like how much light or how much water it gets, or
a lot.
There's got to be something.
It's so from doing a lot of research on this stuff, a lot of it comes down to temperature and elevation of the area, and like just like what ends up getting stuck in some of these like gullies. So like a lot of cold air can get trapped inside of some of these areas and make like some areas progress faster than others. And then like, when you go to New York, it's always good because if you go to an area elevation plays a huge role in when the colors start to change.
Right.
Like you just find an elevation that's perfect, and then you kind of go to a topographical map, and you look for other areas within the area that you're in that are around that same elevation.
Right.
And it works. Believe it or not, like if you're into full blown fall and like everything is changing and like you have areas that are bare and areas that are not, that's just a crapshoot. That you're just driving
Right.
and you find the right thing. But if you find some color when other things aren't, you're looking for the elevation.
So you think error on the early side would be your strategy?
So yeah, so that's why I'm saying I'm gonna see right when like the first areas start to peak.
Mm-hmm.
Go to those areas and then follow it. Whether I have a week, I have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever ends up happening with this whole coronavirus thing, and then I'm just gonna look at the elevations and then drive to different places. Keep an eye on because pretty much all the states up there, they do a forecaster, and they have like
right. That's true. Yeah.
they have like leaf peepers that go around once a week and
Leaf
go around
peepers.
and they're literally what they call them, leaf peepers. And that's my goal for this year, because there's a lot of places that I see down there or up there that are like, you're just like, oh, it's a great spot, but could you imagine if everything was orange?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh. So.
Dude, Maine is such a beautiful spot. I mentioned to you before, my wife's family's up there, but my wife's mother purchased a house that's like it's like less of a seasonal. It's not like a cottage, it's like a house
Okay.
up there. And so now we're kind of like, dude, I mean, we could legitimately spend, because the thing is, my wife, because of the whole quarantine, she's a therapist. And so she's just started doing these like therapy sessions like this,
Right.
And after doing them for a month, she's kind of like, I don't like it as much as doing it in person, but like I could do this. Like I could do that. And now
there's
the
going to be a
clients,
lot of industry that does that.
yeah. And I think you will see, not to get back on that subject, but I think you will see that big kind of shift happening with a lot of businesses. But, so now it's kind of like, dude, I mean, we could just go up there for like a month. I mean, we could just go up there for a month, and, I could kind of start at the house, and that'd be like my base camp. And then I could just kind of like, well, I'm going to drive. And now all of a sudden it's like, it's not like a 14-hour drive. Now it's like a 2-hour drive,
And that's the thing, is that like believe it or not, I went to Nova Scotia before, and that's the same as driving to Miami from here.
Yeah. Wow.
Doesn't look like it on a map.
Right.
And I didn't think about that before I left, but I drove all the way up there, and I caught some crazy fall colors up in Maine. And because I ended up quitting my job, and I gave them 2 weeks notice, and then I had a week in between. And when I gave my notice, I was like, I'm out of here.
You just did them dirty like that.
Here's my 2 week notice. And they're like, you can go now.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, the whole point of 2 weeks notice is that I continue to work. I need that paycheck. They're like, no. We don't like you, so just fuck it. Here's your money.
Yeah.
Out. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll take 3 weeks vacation before my new job. And
right.
So I ended up going up there for like 3 weeks, and I still got paid for my job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
that's good. That's good strategy by you. It's like, I've got bad news and I've got bad news. Like,
right.
What's the bad news? Like, I'm going to take a bunch of my PTO time right now. They're like, oh, all right, well, we can work that out. What's the bad news? Like, I quit.
Right. So I couldn't believe it. They paid me out. They basically, because when you're in pharma, it's kind of like, once you put your 2 weeks notice in, you pretty much, if they're not in dire constraints for a person,
right?
When you give your 2 weeks, you're pretty much out the door.
They don't want the flight risk walking around ruining morale.
Well, they don't want that, and like the shit you could mess up. Like if you're really bitter So like everybody that I know that worked at that company, except for one person, like 10 other people have been just told like, here's my 2 weeks. And they're like, get out.
Right.
Only one person I know actually got stuck working the whole 2 week period. Feel bad, but yeah, I was able to, by chance, it was at the right time. And I was able to hit fall in Maine, up in New York, some freaking Nova Scotia was a yellow. Everything was yellow.
Huh. That's
like
awesome.
the whole place, everything.
Yeah.
And I talked to a local. He's like, yeah, it's been like this for 2 weeks. It's the strangest thing.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah. And they just, so he said that like it changes color, but then usually a storm comes in and like blows everything off. But the
Right.
apparently super nice for 2 straight weeks, so none of the leaves ended up falling.
Yeah, that's interesting because you're right. Sometimes, some seasons, it seems like, man, this color is just lasting and lasting. And then other times it's like nothing. Like then there's like one little area where it's crazy and then like still nothing. And then you're right, like a storm comes in and it's like, yeah, our beautiful fall was 5 days and that's all we got.
That's why fall is the hardest thing to photograph, in my opinion, for like landscape wise, just because you have to be there at the perfect time.
Yeah, right.
Perfect time. And I ended up doing a New York trip and just driving. And I actually ended up I pulled to the side of the road to kind of like look at a view, and I got stuck.
Shit.
Yeah, because I pulled in and I just sunk into like 8 inches of mud.
Oh, man.
Like, well, this isn't good.
How'd you get out?
The photo was perfect. I'm so happy with the photo, so it made it worth it.
Yeah.
But I literally stood on the side of the road, and because I couldn't get AAA, I didn't have any cell phone service. I was literally in the middle of nowhere. And some girl tried to pull me out with her 4-wheel drive pickup, but the van is so heavy. It's an E350 that they couldn't pull me out.
Wow.
So she's like, sorry, tried, like nothing I can do. And I was like, all right. I just was standing there, and some guy in like a landscaper truck, a big dually landscaper truck, pulled up. He's like, some girl came down, told me you were stuck. And I was like, yep. He's like, gonna cost you $80. And I was thinking,
No way.
dude, $80. It was gonna cost like, I ended up calling AAA to find out like what my plan would have covered.
Right.
It was gonna cost $350
Really?
just to pull me out of that spot, because they considered my vehicle oversized.
Huh.
They were actually gonna send like a wrecker, like one of those big ass wreckers with the winch.
You crossed the threshold of like a reasonable customer or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. So that's why I ended up dropping them, because I was like, I could just pay that normally. Like I could call the place, they'll just charge me $350. I don't have to pay a membership fee every year.
Right.
Yeah,
That's true.
Dude, we drove down to the freaking bank right down the road, hit the ATM and gave the guy $80.
I mean, I guess when you put it that way, it doesn't seem so bad. It just felt like 80 is such a funny number. It's such a like, you know,
It was crazy.
maybe it was the twang you put on his voice that made it sound more unreasonable. I don't know.
And it came out of nowhere, and he had like this little like kid with him. I was just like, the kid's like playing in the mud and stuff, and he didn't give a shit about it. And I was like, all right, that's just how we roll here, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, he got $80. You can play in the mud till your heart's content, you know?
Yeah, right. That was probably like, oh, dude, it was the middle of absolutely nowhere. Like there's like, I've been in like remote places, but like East Coast remote, that was remote.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Maine is especially one of those states too. It's like you're either in like Maine, it's like vacation and like let's climb that and like let's bed and breakfast. And then there's Maine where it's just like, you know, like we don't get a lot of your kind around here. Like, you know, there's that Maine, you know.
Dude, it was funny though. Hey, I was happy the guy pulled me out. You know what I mean? I was only stuck for like an hour and a half. Like no biggie.
Yeah.
No foul. You know what? For $80, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
have
a
to
good point.
in some guy's cornfield for the night.
Right. Well, dude, as the 2019 Mid-Atlantic AAA Travel Photo Award winner, I will see if I can pull some strings to get them to change the policy.
Yeah.
But,
Right. Oh, it was hard because they just said that like the size of the vehicle and the size of the vehicle they would have to send out, and like it could take up to 6 hours. And I was like, and like I couldn't get cell phone service where I was. There were a couple, like it was just like literally a bank and like a McDonald's at the that was it at the town down at the bottom, and they had like snack shops that I could find, but it wouldn't connect. It would just like, it would like, it did like try and it wouldn't. And I was just like, man, it sucks.
Like no bars, no bars. You're like,
Exactly.
"Ah!"
'Cause you're just in the center. And that was the thing. I was in the valley of the mountains. But it
Yeah.
was nice because I ended up getting somebody's like pole barn in the foreground. And then it went up to the mountain and there was 3 windmills on the top of the mountain. And it was all yellow.
Oh,
And it
that's
had
awesome.
textured clouds behind it. So it wasn't just like a blown out sky. It was a great photo. And I got back and I like looked down and I was like, oh shit. Like, there is no way I'm getting out of this.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't see that when you pulled in. You
Dude,
thought
sometimes, like,
you're just
when I
looking at the photo.
Exactly. Like you're driving up and you're like, oh man, like I got to pull over for this. And then you just pull in, grab the bag and just get out and go.
Right.
And I came back and I was like, oh boy, like my tire was already like, there was so much mud in the grooves of the tire that like, it was just like a slick.
Right. Right.
I was just like, oh boy, that was not a good call.
Oh man. Well, dude, I would, I don't, obviously neither one of us really know what our schedules are so far, but if in some time in the future you want to go shoot something, like Milky Way is my favorite thing. And, I mean, like I said, I'm probably going to be in Maine, a lot more than I usually am. So if you kind of passing through the area that I'm in or something, and like, it's one of those days, which usually when we're up in Maine, it is like this, because there's always somebody who can watch my daughter and all that. It's just
Right.
Here's the kid, like, and they're like,
Right.
let's go.
That's what I'm saying. Because I'll definitely let you know because, the hardest part for me when people are like, hey, let me know. It's like, I'm usually like the day before or maybe 2. Because
Right.
you can't, like when it comes to the Milky Way, when it comes to sunrises, sunsets, like for a sunrise, I'm like right now at like 7:30 at night. Like, do I think it's going to be good? Like, all right, I'll shoot it. And then even when I wake up, I go through the same process again. So like people are like, oh, why haven't you like hit me up about it? It's like, oh, I can, but then I'm going to let you know at 4:30 in the morning
Right.
that it's good to go out.
Yeah, it's a game time decision for
Right.
sunrise.
Why don't we just go? I'm like, because I'm not going to waste my time just going.
Yeah.
Like so many, I've already done that part, and I've already got all the photos from all the cliche places.
Right.
Now I want to like get the perfect photo from the place. So I'm just not going to waste time on something that I don't even think is like, if I wake up and all of a sudden it's overcast, I'm not still going to go.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'll definitely let you know because, Milky Way, there's still places in PA, there's still places in New York, there's places, West Virginia, I've got them all planned out and lined up. It's got to be the right. That's the thing is like when the Milky Way comes, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what state I'm ending up in.
Mm-hmm.
It just ends up being whichever one is clear on the map. And that's one thing. If you want to do a lot of like travel photography, that's the way you got to do it. It's got to be what time of year do I go to this place? What time of year do I go here? And then like in January, that's when I start planning things.
Right.
Like, that's the cheapest place at that time. So that's where I'm going to end up going. And that's how I've planned every single trip that I've ever gone on. Now, yeah, I've favored some places over others, but like when I went to Calgary, it cost me $200. My plane ticket was $200 round trip to Calgary.
Yeah.
Who could like have asked for anything better?
That was for what, like Banff, I'm assuming?
That was for Banff, yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dude,
You don't get
flights
prices
right
like
now.
that.
Flight prices right now.
Oh,
I mean, it's like, it's one of those, like, it is tempting sometimes, it's like, I can feel my like mouse hand just kind of like,
I know.
like,
Because
wow.
I want to go back to, what's it called? I want to go back to Glacier really bad. That's like, that by far, Idaho, Montana, that like whole corridor right there of the Rockies, that's by far my favorite place on the planet.
Such a beautiful part of the world. Yeah.
And nobody knows anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just incredible. And I'll go back and I was looking it up the other day and I was like, man, plane tickets aren't that expensive.
Yeah.
But you never know. You plan it and June comes around and you're fucked because they haven't opened everything yet. The
Right.
next parks are still closed. And you're like,
That's true. And the
Well, they're
airlines,
not
the airlines
they're
are
not
going to reimburse you for that. They're
Right.
just like, is everyone dead? Like no, well, no, they're alive, but the park is still. There's like
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here we'll refund you, but you still got to use it in the next 17 minutes. So
Yeah.
you figure out where you're going to go.
Yeah. Exactly. exactly. Well, dude, yeah. I mean, I realize it's difficult to hit people up at that particular time. But if it's the type of thing where I'm motivated anyway on a particular day or weekend or something, like, no, I really am feeling that kind of game time decision.
Right.
Yeah, if you're thinking of it, hit me up and I'll at least be like, I'm not coming or whatever.
And that's the thing. I send people messages all the time, and I'm like, I'm going to Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
And they're asleep.
if you want to go, let me know. You know what I mean? And or it's, I can't tell you how many times I've messaged people like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I'm going to Sunrise. And then like they wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they were like, how? Right. I send them the picture, and they're like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, hey, this is how I make my decisions. That's just
how man. Sunsets are easy, but sunrise, that's where the discipline comes in.
It's sunrise. We're at that cusp. Another 2 weeks, and when we're done in April, sunrise is not an option.
Yeah, then it's brutal. Then it's like you might as well not even go to bed.
Because as I was saying, I am in my spot an hour before.
Mm-hmm.
If I have determined that it's going to be that good, then you do get color. You do start to get color about an hour before sunrise.
Yeah.
So like, I want to be able to plan it out and have everything the way it needs to be. So when I get there, I don't want to be rushing around being like, oh my God, like here comes the color. Like, what am I going to do? I want to be in the spot and take my initial like buildings with nothing else and get the highlights of the city, and then let the color fold in, whether that's, an hour or 15 or 5 or never, that's how it works sometimes.
Yeah, no, I feel you 100%. Like because if you are making the effort to get up, I mean, you're still, even if it's an hour later, like you're still waking up really early, whether I got there an hour prior or I got there 10 minutes before the moment, like you probably weren't going to wake up at like 5 a.m. either. Like, let's be honest, most people aren't going to do that. So if you're putting through that effort, and if you research the spot, and if you're like, I'm probably going to try to get one with this lens, and like if you take that initiative, then yeah, I mean, you might as well get there so that you're not stressed out. So you'd be like, I'm calm, I can set up, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to like drink a nice coffee and it's cool out.
I can't tell you how many times I've sprinted to a location. You know what I mean? Because you're like, oh, I'll just get there like 30 minutes beforehand. And as you're driving, you're like, oh my God, it's happening. And then you start running and then you missed it.
Yeah.
I put forward all this effort. What would a half an hour have been? Nothing.
Yep.
Half an hour is nothing in the time scale.
I do a lot of what I do is time lapse. That's just always been like a big interest for me. And with time lapse, it's like, if unless you take that sort of into consideration, like here's the moment and it's all about this moment. The problem is that if you're doing a time lapse, like you can't just start at that moment, because then it's just like the story happens at the beginning and then nothing happens at the end. So the transition is what makes a good time lapse. So you have to get all of the gold hour. You have to get the deep shadows. You have to have it go down the horizon. Then here comes the color. And then you've got to get the city lights coming on and you've got to do that really well. So unless if I don't know what sunset is tonight, it's probably right about a few minutes ago.
It's literally right now.
Like if I were going to show up somewhere, like I'd be showing up at like quarter to 7.
Right this second.
Yeah. Right.
Like you nailed it. You knew it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a feeling. I was like, it's probably like 7:30ish tonight.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I feel you, man. It's there's nothing worse than feeling that stress and not like, because it's like, I want to enjoy this. Like I want to get the shot, but I also want to like have a good time, and I want to be able to chill and maybe have a conversation or whatever.
100%. Yeah.
Just be like pissed that like I didn't do something else.
Right. And that was like one of the mornings, I just remember shooting with Dante Fratto, and we went up to Lemon Hill, and we got up there. It was pitch black. I got him to come on top of the van just to get us above the trees a little bit more. Uh-huh. And it's like, we just sat there and like shot the shit for like 20 minutes before it popped up. And he's like, I hate getting here so early. Like like whatever. But like it ended up working out. And, you just sitting there talking instead of everybody's like messing around trying to get their angles and their shots. And then you're stressed out and you're rushing. And then you're like, all right, well, I got to go to work. Or, like, all right, well now it's like, I'm starving, time for breakfast. Like, see you later. You know,
Yeah.
got to have a little bit of a conversation and talk with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, why did we even come together? What was the,
Right.
like, we didn't even need to, you know?
Right.
And also those moments like before sunrise are just awesome. It's like, there's just something about that, like that, I don't know what it is. It's like, you just got a head start on the rest of the world. And you have this feeling like I have this competitive advantage right now. Like I have this awareness and clarity about everything and no one else does because no one's awake. And it's like a weird motivating.
When you get out there before sunrise and like a lone car goes driving by, like when we were in the Tetons, sunrise, it was June or July, I think no, it was 4th of July weekend we were out there. I think we were out there for the 4th of July weekend. And like, we're standing in the lane in a major highway and like before sunrise, and a car pulled up and like, we didn't move.
It's like you made him go around.
He totally just slowed down and went on the other side of the road and went right around us. But like, it was just so funny because you're like, try to do that any other time of day or like for any other time of anything. And like, never would have happened.
You get arrested.
Yeah, right. But just like that 5 o'clock in the morning, like you're sitting there shooting. There was a group of 4 of us or 5 of us. I ended up, believe it, you know, Carl Shakur.
I don't think so.
He's a photographer that goes around. He does a lot of stuff, but he ended up being there. You know what I mean?
Really? That's just cool.
Shooting around, having a good time, and like, believe it or not, I did that Philly Collective photo gallery thing that they did, and somebody,
like selling your work and stuff.
Yeah, somebody was like, "I think I've seen this picture before. Like, did you take this?" And I was like, yeah. That was like, I was here and there. And they're like, I've seen that before. I'm like, oh yeah, Carl Shakur. Like he has almost the identical same picture. They were like, oh yeah, were you like, yeah, I was there with him. And they were like, oh, okay. Like his work gets out everywhere. And I was like, no, steal somebody's fucking picture.
That is funny. Yeah. Like you have,
like all of us we're blocking this lane of traffic and like people are driving around us. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's funny too. Is like, you basically end up getting like almost the same shot. Like, maybe his edit was like a little better or something, but like you end up with almost the same shot. Like, how much did you make off that? It's like, like $500. They're like, how much did you make? Oh, like 50 grand or whatever. And like just
I've never made a penny off of that photo. And he's like signing deals with like Visa, MasterCard.
Right.
Yeah. Dell. Exactly. He just did one with Dell. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah. What a world, man. Well, we can always, I don't know, keep cracking on and hoping that maybe one day we start getting some stuff like that. That would be cool.
That's the dream.
Yeah, man.
Make your pick.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks again for all your time, man. I really appreciate it. I know this one went long. I don't know. Out of curiosity, how long did you think, like when you came into this, you were probably like, how much time does this psycho want me to spend on here? Like, what did you
Dude, see, and that's what I said though. I said earlier, I could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Like like you could literally get me till like 9 o'clock and I probably wouldn't say anything just because that's how much I talk. Like I've got so many stories and stuff, you know what I mean? That like however long it goes, you know, whatever. Like, I had no idea. Somebody said that they were going to stop by at 6 and I was like, I'm pretty sure we're still going to be talking by 6. Just don't shut up.
Yeah. I'm the same way, dude. I really am. But regardless, I still appreciate it, man. I mean, you still gave me like, it's almost been 3 hours. So I really appreciate it, dude. I'd love to shoot sometime. And regardless, I mean, hey, if you've got more to say, maybe we can do another one of these sometime.
Right. Yeah, we definitely have to, maybe we'll flip the script. Maybe I'll do one to you.
Okay.
I
I probably have far less accolades to speak of, but if I can come up with another good, like I stalked a professional photographer and walked into his house story, maybe it's worth it.
That's funny. But yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you reaching out, and we do have to formally meet and actually shoot together when knock out a Milky Way or something soon, because there's so many places, and I'm sure that in a month and a half, 2 months, people are just gonna be clawing to their house to shoot.
Oh my God.
I have a feeling I'm going to be taking some vacation time, in May to get some Milky Way stuff. So
That's a good point, dude. Everyone's gonna be like, "Hey, we can go back to work." You're like, "Time to take my PTO."
Time to go. Like,
Yeah.
people are taking PTO right now for my job. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh God, I feel like I'm getting like a fever. Like maybe I should stay home for a couple of days. You know, because there's like the state mandated sick time now.
Yeah, that's so odd.
You know what I mean? I'm like, screw that. I'm gonna say I kind of feel under the weather. And my head feels a little hot. Like, so
Crazy, man. Well, yeah, man. Thanks again. I'll shoot you an email once at your AOL email address.
I apply for jobs with that email address.
Oh man,
I still
at
get
a
them.
pharma company.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? If this jackass is sending me a freaking AOL.com, like he's confident. Like that's the way. Like that's how open they're thinking, right? Like he must be a confident person. Like,
that's true. Like if you applied for a job at like, Salesforce or Oracle or something with an AOL email address, it's like the equivalent of showing up and just taking your dick out and like throwing it on the table.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't like
balled on this guy. All right, get him in here. Let's talk.
Yeah, right. That's great.
All right, dude. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man, and I'll shoot you an email when I post it, and you can check it out. And
cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, bro.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Take it easy.